Sleeping time. Sleeping time. Oh, sleeping time. I was in the laboratory when somebody showed me him. Somebody said that I'm up today. The boss could take care of them. And in this crowd was singing loud, going to the convention. When we walk in, big spin and ting, oh Lord, what a session. In the hand was a plan and he start to jam. He hit them, bam, bam, bam. Somebody say you got like the man, he have a touch of Eric William, huh? Hallelujah. We ain't making no total mistake. Hallelujah. What the opposition get, they go take. Hallelujah. When I say okay, you know what I mean. Hallelujah. Get all your broom and sweep in this country clean. Hallelujah. We can't fail. Hallelujah. Licks in the tail. Hallelujah. Great is the B&M, it shall prevail. Sleeping time. Sleeping time. Sleeping time. One nation is a one people today, a dynamic diversity. A party strong because all along we celebrate our plurality. Equality right across the board, everybody have a chance. That's why all around every place in town is locals leading the dance. We're talking about the ultra-modern social infrastructure. Education become priority one on the national agenda. Hallelujah. We ain't making no dotish mistake. Hallelujah. So when them opposition get they go take. Hallelujah. And when I say cookie, you know what I mean. Hallelujah. Bring all your broom and sleep in this country clean. Hallelujah. We can't fail. 50 years on this trail. Hallelujah. Great is the B&M, it shall prevail. Sleeping time. Sleeping time. Sleeping time. Get your broom now. Election time.
Morning to all on the live on Facebook, on YouTube. Good morning. Let me see who I have here on YouTube. Roxanne King, brought out her brooms again. Good morning, Roxanne. Point Kumana Sharon, good morning. I'm seeing some Point Kumana is saying some folks may be on one of the other sessions. I think that there was some little issue, folks, with respect to where on Synergy we were trying to enable the stream of real issues. And so I had some problems setting up on the faxa stuff and things. So I don't know if it is that based on what Point Commander Sharon is saying, if some people may be logged into that other stream. Natalie F, good morning. Gaylan Jackson, Baba Wosehi, good morning. Angie Sherry 410, Dexter Tweets, morning. Morning, Anna. Juliana Matthews, Leon Graves, Aderemi X, good morning. Douglas Miami, morning to you guys. We have here on Facebook, Nicole Caesar, good morning. Kurt Richards, morning to you. Kathy Ann Townsend, good morning. Darrell Nanton, good morning, sir. Joy Ragunanan, good morning. Kenneth Gabriel, Twin Peters, morning to all of you. Jennifer Dossett, morning, Angie. I didn't see Angie, but I know she listens silently. Anton Batiste, Jennifer Ferron, Melkarock, good morning. Janice Matthews, Kuin Harrington. Morning to all of you. Morning to Mother Tunapuna. To Mr. Chance, Mr. Yates, good morning to all of you. Right, let's see what's the time now, boy. 11:06. You're cooking with gas, man. Dave Shrobin, Anthony Joseph, Patsy Peters, J. Dimples, morning, Ashton Jack. Eric, morning, sir. Eric, how about Jersey Fair? Final size, the PNM Warrior. We got to talk after. Phyllis Antoine, Judy Bowen, good morning. Ian Clouden, good morning. Tallman, morning, sir. Right, let's get into it. I guess the other folks will join in as we proceed. So I was before I get into the local side of things, right? Well, I guess it leads up. So I was watching MSNBC or one of those foreign stations just now. I know they were talking about the issue of climate change and all of these strange weather patterns that we're seeing all over in the US, the extreme heat that several states are undergoing, where persons have died from heat-related complications. India was happening in India with the floods, in Greece with the wildfires and so on. And I threw my mind back to, I think it was COP26, where there was a lot, all the major world leaders would have come together to make certain pledges and commitments with respect to reduction in carbon emissions in their respective countries to help to treat or to stem the tide or to reduce the effects of global warming. That was about 2 years ago or so. What has happened since then? With all of these leaders and all these great speeches that were made and the commitments and pledges that were made. And in looking at this feature just now, what the most concerning thing that came out of that for me was where they had the scientists who were saying, based on what we're seeing happening now globally, they had predicted that these things would have happened 20 years down the road. But we have actually accelerated the rate at which these things are happening. And not much is being done to reverse it. So we're seeing record temperatures in places like Florida and stuff, 106 degrees Celsius, and madness, real madness taking place. And it's only projected to get worse in terms of weather patterns, stronger hurricanes and storms, more frequent, all these different things. So very soon enough, we may not have a hurricane season because hurricane season might be year long. But I raised the issue because I remember one of the most impactful speeches at that COP26, I think it was, came from Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. And I recall all of the accolades that she got, not just internationally, but locally as well. There were people in Trinidad who were praising Mia Mottley for that speech. For days, they talk about it. And they talked about when Dr. Rowley was talking, he was speaking to an empty room and nobody wanted to hear what he had to say. But Mia Mottley this and Mia Mottley that. And that was speech. She buff up all the world leaders and tell them they need to do this. What has come out of that speech, that great speech? Anything? Yes, it was a good speech. Yes, she put global leaders in their place and told them what needed to be done and the impact that what their countries are doing would have on the Caribbean region, because as we have rising sea levels, it is the Caribbean countries that are likely to be impacted. We're already seeing coastal erosion at an unprecedented level. Those of us who frequent the beaches would know that every time you go to the beach, it seems like the shore is just getting shorter and shorter, and the water keeps coming in closer and closer. But I raise the issue because, and I'm seeing this happening right now in this local government election season, where political leaders are giving speeches, great speeches, yes, some of them anyway. And the crowd and the audience lapping it up. Yes, applause. But are these speeches really practical? Some of them, right? So Mia Mottley gave a great speech, but I have not seen any action really coming out of what she would have said in terms of the impact it had on the person she was talking to. It was a speech for the moment, and it would have caused people to pause and reflect. And then they went back to the respective countries and ask any of them now, will you remember what Mia Mottley said? Probably not. And we're seeing this now. So I was going through Facebook this morning and I saw the PEP, People's Empowerment Party, had a meeting yesterday in Diego Martin. And it's the little things that we miss that tell you that could mean so much in the long run, right? That we tend to overlook. So Mr. Alexander, the political leader of the PEP, he's been on making the rounds and stuff, attacking everybody. As he said yesterday at his meeting, the PEP is the only party that has the divine right to govern this country. Divine right, God gave that party that right. No other party has the divine right. No other party is sanctioned by God to run this country. Only the PEP. And I am talking about, accountability and how the People's Empowerment Party would account for every single dollar that they get for their campaigning and whatnot and stuff. And when they're in government, they would do the same thing. But yet still, people are still asking you to give account for the Jericho Foundation. What about the monies that were given to that foundation for charitable purposes? You ever give account for that, sir? I just asking, was that a different Philip Alexander to the one that we have now? You are changed, man. Well, give account for that now. Put your money where your mouth is, literally. But there were certain things that I noticed. You remember when, and I raised it because when the PDP, the earlier incarnation of the PDP, before the 6-6, or around the 6-6 time, when PNM was telling Tobago, look at the signs. Look at the signs and you will see what a THA under Watson Duke would present. What a THA under Watson Duke would look like. And Tobagonians didn't want to listen. Say, Trinidad, all again in meddling in Tobago business, all your past, keep out of our business. Okay. They had the 6-6. We warned them, Tell them, they didn't listen. Okay. We come and heading up now to the second election that led to the 14-1. We're telling them the THA is not the PSA. Look at how Watson Duke runs the PSA. Understand that if he gets in there, the THA will be run the same way that the PSA is being run. They didn't listen. We making Kuchu and Bacchanal. Stay out of Tobago business. All you know what they're talking about. We fed up at the PNM. We want change. We want something new. We want the PDP. No problem. We told them. They put in the PDP. And what happened? Mr. Duke attempted to run the THA in the same way that he ran the PSA. And he got run out of town. Right? Because he underestimated Farley. Farley pulled a fast one on him. To this day, Mr. Duke still reeling from that. He says he knew the character that Farley was, but I don't think he fully understood what Farley was capable of. And he's now seeing it. He has seen it. I don't think anybody expected Farley, Mr. Quintessential Seventh-day Adventist, right? Mr. Virtuous, to come in the chamber and in giving a speech tell her, man, why don't you just stink mouth? Especially when you knew something like that had happened before in Trinidad in the parliament with Rudal Munira. I'm sure he's aware of it. But that didn't deter him from telling Watson Duke, and it speaks to a lack of ability to control your emotions. Right? You tell him, hush your stink mouth, and I thought that Watson get a slap so he no, he still ain't recover from it. I don't think anybody was expecting that. But it happened. So coming back to Philip Alexander and the little things that you pick up on. So, the norm has been for all the political parties, when they're having the public meetings, the political leader always arrives late. For whatever reason, they will come after the meeting start, after one or two speakers have spoken and so on. And I guess it's for pause and effect, however, look, the political leader arrive on time and the meeting starts with the political leader there, so it doesn't really put the spotlight on them. So Kamala does it, Dr. Rowley does it, other political leaders do it. So, true to form, this Philip Alexander, who wants to tell you that he's different from all, and I'm not focusing on him too much, but I just need to comment on this based on what I noticed. He gives you the impression, or he talks about one thing, he's different from the rest of them, and what the PEP is not like them other parties. But you arrive late, because that is the norm. So clearly that's where you got it from. So before he arrives, there's a gentleman speaking. So the man has his notes, prepared notes, and he's going through it and he's reading and so on. And Mr. Alexander arrives to, of course, TASA. They have a whole TASA group and a whole East Indian dance troupe and all kind of thing to welcome him. to the stage, right? So the guy is speaking and he hears the tassa start to play and he sees the dance troupe coming up in front and the expression on his face like, well, what going on here? I confused. I give him eye token and all of a sudden, just up. So he looking around, he don't know what to do. And there's a young lady by the name of Indira, who I'm guessing was the coordinator for the evening's events. She comes up on stage and she speaks to him, whatever, and he looking confused and he sees little hand gestures and so on. And then he announces, please recognize the arrival of the political leader, Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. And then the fella exits the stage and Alexander comes on and he waving his flag and he walk around the stage and all of that. And then they have the culmination of the cultural presentation from the stage. And then he starts to speak. And I find it strange. I'm saying what normally obtains is that while the person speaking is speaking, if the political leader arrives, they would pause, tell the people, well, look, we recognize the arrival of the political leader and so on. In the case of Dr. Rowley, they have a tune that they play. In the case of Kamala Prasad, it's the same thing as Pepper. You have a whole cultural expression, the whole TASA group and all this kind of thing to welcome her in. Dr. Rowley would come in and he would just walk straight because understanding the program is ongoing, it's being televised, it's being carried on radio and so on. You don't want to keep the person who's speaking on pause for too long. So he will just come in, right, and walk in and go up on the stage and sit down. With Kamala Prasad, the sister, she have to walk the whole room and shake everybody's hand and kiss baby and touch children's face and take pictures. It's a whole theatrical performance before she goes back to sit down. And I saw that the UNC now is trying to make some sort of comparison between the two to say, look at Rowley. When he come into a meeting, he will shake nobody's hand and he didn't have time to hug up nobody until he just going straight on the stage. And Kamala, however, she different. She'll shake hand and give bonks and kiss and all them kind of foolishness. Right? To give, because remember, she has to prop up this persona that she is the mother of the nation and she loves everybody. And we're talking about I love and I love you and I love you. Okay, right. But when Mr. Alexander now, he comes up on stage and the man in the middle of his speech, he gone. So you ain't hear the rest of it. So I suspect he may have been listening, following the program on Facebook. And he probably find the man talking too much or he boy in the crowd. So he called Indira, I'm guessing, and tell her, hey, I come in, you need to get rid of that man because, yeah, I come in to talk. He ain't making no sense. So you get rid of the man. So it struck me because, you see, you have no regard for people. You want to come and present that you have a divine right. Your party is the only party that has a divine right to run Trinidad and Tobago. But you don't appreciate protocol. I'm sure this man feeling like a sucks. The man, this whole speech he present talking about policy and all of these different things, yeah, he was jamming the PNM too. But the man is getting into the meat of his speech and you arrive and he had to get off the stage. Exit left or exit right. And he gone. And make way for His Majesty Philip Edward Alexander. You come up on the stage, no thanks to the man or whatever it is. Another thing that struck me, you have a whole TASA group and a whole East Indian dance troupe to bring you on, right? And they would have provided entertainment prior to his arrival. Here we are, mere days away from Emancipation Day. And you didn't see it fit to bring an African drummer group or an African dance troupe or something, yeah? And because you bring Prophet Benjamin, I suppose, yeah, bring Prophet Benjamin, let him sing a tune or two. And that is for the Africans in the audience, who, by the way, based on the camera scanning, was clearly the majority of the audience. But you weren't cognizant of your audience, right? So you bring I don't really talk the race thing, but some things are evident. And if it is that you want to connect, well, recognize that now. Recognize that. That you have people in the lead up to Emancipation Day, but you didn't see it fit. Okay, no problem with that. That was your choice. Totally out of touch. And I guess, as I said, Prophet Benjamin was supposed to appease the Africans in the audience. All right. And then you come up and say you should talk a pack of nonsense. But let me not say nonsense. I do the comparison between him and Mia Motley to make this point. So he's talking and he's talking policy and all of these different things. And of course, the people in the audience clapping and yeah. I saw a video where some UNC candidates went a walkabout and they went by what was probably, they assumed to be a UNC household. And the members of the household run the fella, the two candidates. They said, go from here, we vote in Pep, right? UNC is a waste of time. Look all the time, all in charge of this area, and look at the condition of this road. The last time the councillor come here and he promised this and promised that and he never come back. run them. Yeah. So it seems the UNC, the biggest threat to the UNC is the PEP, because the supporters definitely not going to vote for PNM. But if they're upset with the UNC and they're looking for an alternative, PEP is the alternative that they gravitate into, right? So they get run out of the place. And we're seeing that happening a lot. But Mr. Alexander is talking policy, and people buying into that. Yes, we want PEP. Make a change. You know Alexander saying, you know all them things. And when you listen to some of the things that he says, theoretically, it sounds good. But in terms of practicality, it's a totally different story. You see, when you've never even served as a counselor, you have no political experience. You don't have a full grasp of how government works in this country, how the public sector works. But you're making all of these grandiose promises. Put us in office and we will do this, and we will do that, and we will change this, and we will change that. Great. But where is the practicality in it? Because some of the things that Mr. Alexander is promising that his party could do, based on the current construct of the public service in this country and how things are set up, it is probably going to take about 15 to 20 years for him to even make a dent in terms of implementing some of those things. By that time, he would be a very old man and probably walking just as Kamala Prasad-Bissessar is now, that she could only walk about 5 to 10 minutes before she requires a human crutch to help us. I'm sure many of you would have seen that video, that meeting she attended with Gary Griffith, and she had to be holding Gary's hand to walk. The woman could barely walk, right? Waddling like a penguin, catching her tail. When she went to Parliament last week, Wednesday, same thing, when they had the protesters outside and she trying to mount the pavement. She needed to hold on to Urvashi Tiwari's hand to mount the pavement. That's just one step up. She couldn't do it. She had to hold on. Urvashi had to help her. And if you notice, the police officer, the female police officer who is always with her, again, she always needs assistance. So one thing I could agree with Philip Alexander on, Kamala don't have family to tell her, hey, rest yourself. Look at why you're putting yourself through that. You're struggling to walk. We saw it a couple of years, not even, maybe last year or so on, in the parliament, where every time she had to make a presentation, when she had to go behind the glass, the COVID protection glass, and she given up making her contribution, when she tired and she need to sit down, she would say something, and almost on cue, the members of her party would start to pound the desk and make a whole big ruckus and start to throw talk over the aisle, right? To give her 2 minutes to sit down, because they had a chair right next to her. So she would go back and sit down for a little bit. And when the ruckus stopped, she would come back and speak. And then when she tired again and out of breath, she would say something, and they started pound the desk and all kind of thing, make her set a whole noise, and then she go back and sit down. She take a breather for 2 minutes and then come back. And this, they want to tell you, this, put her back. As if it is, put her back in 2025, and between 2025 to 2030, she's going to get younger. She's going to get stronger. Yes? Not older. She's catching her nenen now. But 2 years from now, she will be much younger and stronger. And that is what they want to tell you. But anyway, the point I was making, all of these things that Mr. Alexander talking about, something like it making sense. But clearly he doesn't understand how the system works. Because in order to put these things into place, you need to amend the system. And that is going to take a long time. And especially if you don't have a significant majority, as the People's Partnership would have had between 2010 to 2015, that ain't happening. And I always give the example that Dr. Rowley gave in the Parliament, where the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago gave a simple example. Right. You know, this is why I don't read comments. I'm seeing someone here saying that all right, anyway, let me not go there to be distracted. Dr. Rowley gave an example a few years ago as Prime Minister, where the Cabinet would have given the directive to the public service that all government vehicles are supposed to have the decals on the vehicles to show which ministry they belong to. So that if it is public servants are using the vehicles outside of when they're supposed to be using it, that it could be reported and it could be dealt with. Because he was saying, you have public servants who take in home the vehicles on the weekend, going on the beach, going to the grocery, going to the market, taking the children to church, gallivanting with the public vehicle that taxpayers' money paying to maintain, to put gas on all of these different things, right? So they're not an official business, which is the only time they're supposed to be using the government vehicles. And that directive was given to avoid that, the wear and tear on the vehicles and all of these different things, to cut that out. And as Dr. Rowley said, Madam Speaker, you would not believe the amount of pushback that the Cabinet has gotten on that. that the public servants whose responsibility it is, and senior public servants whose responsibility it is to carry out the mandate of the cabinet, that they refuse, they're taking the time, they're sticking to do it, telling themselves, well, it have an election coming up, and if the PNM lost, then that would have been a PNM directive, and the new party in power would not follow through on that, and we could continue what it is that we're doing, using the government vehicles as we please, going up on the beach, right, joyriding with the vehicles, going to the gas station, filling up the tank, using the voucher book. Well, now they have fleet cards, which is a credit card that they using all of that, taxpayers' money, paying for them to joyride and use the government vehicle like if it's their own personal vehicle. Something as simple as that, but the cabinet has said, this is the instruction, and it is not being carried out. So you can imagine for other things, because at the end of the day, the public servants who are there, regardless of who is in power, after an election and if the government changed, they're still there in the same positions, right? So what is entrenched, what they have become accustomed to, that stays. We couldn't care who inside there. Or they'll come and try to upset the apple cart here. They're done paying we enough money already. So we will try and see how we could benefit otherwise to compensate or to make up for the short pay that we get it. So managing the public service isn't easy, which is why Patrick Manning once said, Trinidad and Tobago is a very difficult place to govern for a number of reasons. Public sector reform is not going to happen overnight. We've been hearing about public sector reform since King Hatchet was a hammer, since Jesus was in Pampers, and it still hasn't happened because you will always have public servants who do not want the status quo to change. It is not in their best interest to have an improved and efficient public service. So the stragglers, those who supposed to work 8 to 4, but come into work 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. You're supposed to go to lunch for 1 hour, but you go to lunch for 2.5 hours. And you're leaving 2 o'clock. So you're putting 2 hours work for the day, but you're getting paid for 8. Right? That's why Desmond Carty say, all are we thief. All are we thief. And that's what's happening. So when I hear Philip Alexander coming and talking all these grandiose plans that we're going to decentralize WASA, and we're going to, in every constituency, we're going to set up water catchment areas. And it is inconceivable that in this day and age that you have places like Diego Martin being serviced by the water treatment plants in Caroni and all of these things, which means that these lines are running along the highway, and that shouldn't be. These things require money, sir. The ideas, the plans that he is espousing requires time and money. So even if we have the money, which we don't, it is going to take time. So you imagine a party coming in an election and telling you, well, here, well, put me in office, and these are our plans, but put me in office in 2025, and we will see to it that these plans are rolled out in 2040. You really going to wait 15 years for all these beautiful, grandiose ideas to roll out? No, you're not going to get a vote, because the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we like instant gratification. No. You promised this now, we expect it to happen in the next 5 years, because this is the campaign on which you made the promise. But it's only in the UNC camp that they understand, right, that certain things conveniently can happen in 5 years. Things that should happen in 5 years can happen in 5 years. Their excuse is it can happen in 5 years. Case in point, Kamla Prasad-Bisesa in 2010 promised that they would reduce the pensionable age for old age pension to 60, and a minimum pension of $3,000 would be paid across the board, regardless. So it had no more means test, as currently happens. Once you reach 60, go to your nearest welfare office, put in your application, and you're getting $3,000 pension. In addition to your $3,000 from NIS, so that is $6,000, and any personal pension you have and all of that. So you're sitting pretty. So some people tell themselves, well, but this $3,000 at 60, old age pension, no more means test, plus $3,000 NIS, and then again a little scrums, a little kakada from my workplace. I good. In fact, I'm getting more money in retirement than I was getting when I was working. So people run and get them the vote for that. Night after night, they're repeating that, After the election, people say, well, all right, when that happening? Only in power now. So when we can expect this money? What are you talking about? What do you mean? The $3,000 pension, you say everybody will get at 860 across the board. No means test. That was a misprint, Really? Okay, you want to tell me it's a misprint. It's in the manifesto for 2010. But speaker after speaker was talking about it. So if it was a misprint. You all didn't realize it was a misprint when you were seeing it every night. Weed Mark, Kamla, Munilal, this one, that one. So it was a misprint and a misspeak. Yeah? After that, salt, they sell all their dreams. You all give them their vote, your vote. And then after that, they say it was a misprint, and that's the end of that. Let us move on. Remember, that was Kamla's signature line between 2010 to 15. Let us move on. Whenever something happened, and she find it lasting beyond 9 days, let us move on. She promised fixed election dates. No longer will the Prime Minister be able to call, to pull the election date out of his back pocket or his Forbes. As Mr. Manning used to say, right? Fixed election dates as obtained in the United States, because you know she obsessed with everything US, stand your ground. We'll talk about that, probably not today, but it's coming, right? Good morning to Jolene John. I wonder if Jolene supports stand your ground. I wonder why it is Jolene John not appearing at any of the meetings with Gary Griffith. We're going to talk that on Tuesday, yeah? Tuesday morning we're talking that. Why it is that you're not seeing certain people like Naked and Anil Roberts and them featuring on these platforms. We're going to talk that Tuesday. Hold all your horses. She promised term limits for the Prime Minister, 2 terms and you're gone. So no Prime Minister can serve more than 2 terms. She promised that. Recall legislation. Your MP playing up in the monthly salary and they're doing what they're supposed to do. If you could get a certain amount of signatures from the constituents, your MP gone. And you could be a qualified by election and elect somebody new. All of these things she promised. Now when it is that the UNC, when they come on social media to bash Dr. Rowley say he wasn't closing Petrotrin and he closed down Petrotrin. Petrotrin was not the refinery. The refinery was one aspect of Petrotrin. I don't know how much times I will say that. I'm fed up. It's like, I don't know. They beyond help. I'm not even trying to convince UNC supporters anymore. Waste that time. It don't matter what you tell them. You could give them what evidence or whatever. Failure. You're wasting your time. And as they said, don't cast your pearls to swine. Okay? Yeah. So she promised the smelter. We should close it down. Smelter will give all your cancer and kill all you. Vote for us, and we will build a shipbuilding, ship repair facility on the same site as the smelter, right? So that the people of Labrador, don't worry all yourself. We got you covered. None of those things happen. And when you point it out now to the UNC supporters when they come to talk about Rowley say, and Rowley's a liar, I say, but Kamala promised all these things. She promised to repeal the Property Tax Act, and she didn't. All of these other things that she promised and she didn't fulfill. Hear them. But Kamala was only in office for 5 years. You expected her to do all of that in 5 years? A simple legislation. They had the majority. They brought legislation and passed legislation that they did not promise, that was not in the manifesto. So you're telling me legislation that was not mentioned, was not envisaged, was not promised in the manifesto. They bring that, pass that, but the legislation that they promised to bring, that is in the manifesto, they couldn't bring that in 5 years. And that is the logic of UNC supporters. And they want to sell us that the only reason why Kamala didn't do these things was because 5 years wasn't enough to do it. Really? But she was able to go and amend to bring legislation with respect to local government, the only reform that they did, to change the way in which aldermen are selected and how you earn aldermen, so that they could get aldermen in P&M corporations that they know they could not have otherwise. They could have done that. That wasn't in the manifesto. So how difficult would it have been to bring a law to establish fixed dates for elections? Why didn't they do that? They weren't interested. That was just mama guy thing. So now, when I see Philip Alexander promising all of these things, all these grandiose ideas, setting all up for a fall. So all who say, yeah, he's singing good, you know. I feel like I could get him my vote. Not that he stands a snowball chance in hell of getting into power, but let's say on the off chance he does. In some fairy tale land. He is going to get in there and realize, I thought I could do this, but I can't do that. And I thought I could do that, and I can't do that. And I don't have the numbers in order to change the system. So I just had to go with the flow and see what I could do. Your vote is non-refundable. So when you decide to go and cast your ballot and waste your ballot for certain people, to what end? All of these things, you know what? They're telling you all these great plans, you know, but you know what? They're not giving you the how and the when. How is he going to achieve it? And when is he going to achieve it? So after you give him, again, on the off chance, we know that's happening. But let's say you win the election. Let's say he manages to capture one seat and that makes a difference and he goes to negotiate, because politics makes strange bedfellows, right? Even though he bashing the PNM and the UNC now, the PNM's position is we win alone, we lose alone, we stand alone. So in there, no accommodation between the PNM and he to make he prime minister. The UNC, they welcome that with open arms because they're not about governance. It is about the treasury, and we need to get back inside there by any means necessary. So if it is that we have to, as Pandey says, sleep with the devil to get into office, we're doing that. So don't mind he cussing we now and saying all kind of thing about we, saying all kind of thing about Gary, the worst of things. Wasting on Kamla, wasting on the UNC and the NTA. If he were to win a seat, he can't, with one seat he can't form government. Unless, of course, he enters into an accommodation. And let's say one seat is all that it requires to give a majority. They will welcome him with open arms and he will welcome them with open arms as well. So don't be fooled. As I say, all mutual funds are not the same. So I just warning the people. Now, for the UNC supporters, I think all you should support Philip, at least for local government. Those of you who are convinced by what he says, I think you should remain there and yes, give him your vote. I strongly support that. We know the PNM are falling for that, but you all want something different. You can't vote for the PNM. You cannot in good conscience bring yourself to vote for the PNM because of what you've been fed by the leadership of your party, all right? Because they're telling you the PNM is the most corrupt party, but ask them, any UNC supporter, any UNC member, please tell me about PNM corruption of recent vintage. Like they don't understand the meaning of recent vintage. So they only focus on vintage. So they figure we're talking a long time. So they have to go back 50 years to tell me about O'Halloran and Privat and Jean Miles and Tosoro. I don't want to hear about that. Eric Williams dead. This is not between Eric Williams and Kamla. This is not between Eric Williams and Pandey. This is not between Manning and Pandey. This is between Rowley and Kamla. I want to know, tell me about corruption under Rowley. Don't tell me the PNM corrupt for 50, 60 years and it's the same examples you want to give me. O'Halloran and Privat. I want something recent in the last 10 years. And all they could tell me is Marlene McDonald and Daryl Smith. And I come into Daryl Smith just now. Yeah? Anything else? Nah. Well, Calder Hat. What about Calder Hat? What about Calder Hat? Calder Hat thief. Wait thief. They know. All they know is the talking points that they hear on Douglas Politics, on the UNC platform, Underground Report, Lennox Smith program, talking points. But to say that they're talking about things that they know from knowledge, from research, forget that. And that is why you could always box them in a corner. Once you hit them with facts and they can't deal with it, call your PNM so and so. Call your dirty PNM so and so. That's why you're eating grass and that's why you're suffering. But when it is all you vote for the PNM and the PNM, when don't come wrong, we to ask we for nothing. Don't come play, come to ask we for nothing to eat and beg. That is all they're talking about. Who eating grass, PNM people suffering. But the only people talking crying suffering is the UNC supporters. They see we post a meeting, a PNM meeting, and they find the crowd too big and it's not as large, and their meetings don't have that kind of crowd. Look at that much. Look at how much stupid people. I never thought I could see so much dotish people in one place. Look at all them hungry mouth PNM. They have no food in their house, but they coming out to clap for Rowley. That's the only mantra. Every single one of them. Go on the debunking page. Any post that we put out. Look at the comments. Read some of the comments. The nastiness that they come in with. PNM people suffering. We can't send PNM send the children to school. The PNM had to come and beg them for this and beg them for that. The PNM not begging only for nothing. It's all they complaining, all they suffering, and you can't buy chicken. You could only buy chicken foot and all them kind of nonsense. And it's the same PNM all they hoping, whose votes all they hoping to get? The same PNM hungry mouth supporters who put you all into office in 2010. The same hungry mouth PNM, starving, grass-eating PNM supporters. Well, they have nothing to say, good to say, and talking about, look at them, they run into to listen to the slave master. So now they're adopting the slave master talk too. Yeah, plenty of them. That is the tune they come in with. Go and sing for less, or let's singing for less supper, and all let's serving the 1% and all kind of nonsense. But I continue to say the party that put the most amount of money in the pocket of the 1% was Kamla. Kamla didn't outfit government campus. Thanks to Keith Rowley, government campus is now outfitted, and ministries that were paying rent before are no longer paying rent because they're in government premises. Hundreds of millions of dollars in rent that would have gone into the pockets of the 1% stays in the coffers of the government thanks to Keith Rowley. Rowley did that. So when Ole want to come on the page and talk about what the PNM do for the people of this country, when Ole want to talk that stupidness, the next time you collect your pay, well, we're almost at month 10. Go to your paymaster, your accounting department, HR, and tell them, here what? You see, I don't want no 90,000 personal allowance. I want back the 60,000 personal allowance that Kamala left. In 30, extra 30 that Rowley get me, I don't want it. It's not helping me. So reduce my personal allowance to 60,000 and take out $7,500 in tax. Because the $7,500 that I saving every year, thanks to Rowley, I don't want it. Go and tell your paymaster that. You all ungrateful bastards. Go and tell your paymaster that. Yeah? The reduction in VAT from 15 to 12.5%. The next time you go to pay your tea and tech bill, that all you're complaining, Rowley want to increase the price of electricity and the cost of electricity. The next time you go to and tech, tell the cashier, I want to pay 15% VAT on my bill, not the 12.5% that Rowley reduced it to. The next time you go to pay your TSTT, your flow bill, your Digicel bill, tell the cashier, I don't want to pay 12.5% VAT. I want to pay 15% that Kamala left. I'm not interested in Rowley 12.5%. Rowley ain't do nothing for the country. Go and do that. The next time you go to buy a car, showroom, because we're suffering. The country and the economy is the pits. It's in free fall. But yet still, we almost finished. We in what? PE what? I don't even know. The amount of new cars you're seeing on the road. The next time when you go to a showroom to buy a car, tell the car salesman, I don't want to pay 12.5% VAT on this car. I want to pay 15%. I don't want Rowley 12.5%. Do that. So the extra money that you're saving with the 2.5% off that Rowley give you, tell them keep that. You don't want to pay 12.5%. You want 15%. The next time you go to the hardware, tell the hardware owner you want to pay 15% VAT, not 12.5%. And on all the food items, that is 12.5% VAT that Kamala left 15% on, tell the grocer, I don't want to pay 12.5%, I want to pay 15%. I don't want Rowley 12.5%. And you all come on social media and talk that garbage, that trash. Yeah, that's the nonsense all you like to come and talk. Rowley ain't do nothing for the country. Well, don't take the ferry. The 3 ferries that Rowley buy, the next time you want to go to Tobago buy water, swim. Call Watson, you can ask him if he could direct you to where you could go and buy a bodysuit and fins and swim to Tobago. Don't travel on any of the 3 ferries that Rowley buy. You're not interested in that. Yeah? Don't do that. That making sense. That making sense to all. So just to close off on Philip Alexander, all of these different ideas that he has, it may sound good theoretically, but in terms of practicality and the ability to enforce, And even if it could be done, we don't have the money for that. 1, and 2, time. These things are going to take time. You have to reform the public service first before you could do any of those things, right? In this country, and I keep hearing UNC supporters talking about Trinidad should have been looking like Dubai with all the oil money that passed through this country under the PNM, not the oil money that passed under the UNC. You don't know. Kamla Prasad Bisasa and Pandey, they maximized that money. Trinidad and Tobago got 150% value for the oil money that Pandey was responsible for and the oil money that Kamla Prasad Bisasa was responsible for, that she said was the highest energy revenues in this country's history. It's only under Manning, Eric Williams, George Chambers, Keith Rowley that the oil money was squandered. Under them, it was squandered, but under the UNC administrations and whatever incarnation, the money was put to proper use. That is why today the country's exchequer account is in permanent overdraft, thanks to Kamla Prasad Bisasa. That is what you call expert financial management of the country's finances. Yes, that is why. That is why most of their major infrastructural projects were paid for from borrowed money from the Chinese, which today Rowley had to find money to pay interest on because of debt that Kamla incurred. But don't blame Kamla. All Rowley want to do is blame Kamla, blame Kamla, blame Kamla. So don't blame Kamla for her contribution to the $5 billion a year that we pay in interest on loans and overdraft fees Don't blame Kamala for that. Don't mind she put the exchequer account $23 billion into further overdraft. Don't blame her for that. That's Rowley's fault, because when Rowley came in the first year, he was supposed to wave the magic wand, right? And find that 23 billion to pay off that overdraft. Rowley was supposed to do that. The square peg in the wrong hole, Imbert was supposed to wave his magic wand or apply his engineering skills to make money appear in the treasury, despite the fact that the oil prices was much lower than what it was under Kamala for her 5 years. They were supposed to find the money to be able to bring it back to an acceptable level, to where it was before the People's Partnership came into office, and still give all the other things that all you wanted. The best roads, the best schools, the best education system, the best healthcare to have in the country, right? You're paying $400 and something a year in health surcharge, but you must work in the hospital and everything must be free. You must get the best healthcare that it has on this side of the world. You must get for $400 and something a year in health surcharge. And when you leave the hospital and they give you a prescription, you must be able to just go downstairs to the dispensary, hand it to them, and you get 1 month's supply of medication. And when it finishes, you must be able to go, if you still need it after that, you go back to the dispensary in the hospital and you get another 1 month supply. All for $400 and something, $432, I think, a year in health surcharge. But when you go by the doctor, you're not feeling good and you decide to go by the private doctor. Even before, from the time you walk in the door, is $500. And more than what you're paying for the whole year in health surcharge. But you have no problem paying doc for that. And then after he examine you and whatnot and stuff, all kind of tests you want to run, costing you thousands of dollars, but you ain't complaining. Nah, that's good. See all the line up by St. Augustine Private Hospital, St. Clair Medical, West Shore, you have money for that. Because the public healthcare system in a mess, right? But you expect wonders, miracles, and wonders for $432 a year. Which private doctor taking $432 in one visit and giving you the best healthcare possible? Which one? When just the blood test alone might cost you over $1,000. But a healthcare system that is supposed to provide for over 1 million plus people, some of whom are not contributing because they're not working. So they make no contribution. So it's working folks who contributing the $432 a year that has to add up. But you want the best of everything. In the United States, all they like to talk about and make comparison, false equivalencies. The healthcare sector in America is good. You know why it's good? Because you had to pay. In America, you're supposed to have your personal health insurance under the individual mandate that was established under Obamacare. If you didn't have a health plan, your family could pay a penalty, a percentage of your household income for not taking out health insurance. You call for an ambulance, you fall down in Trinidad here. Yes, the ambulance taking forever to reach, but when you reach, you take it to the hospital. You're sure when you leave, you don't have a bill. But in the US, right, bet your bottom dollar if you don't have health insurance, you reach. Make sure when you jump out the ambulance, start counting in your head. Your bill, from the time they come and they put you on that stretcher and throw you inside the back of the ambulance, your bill start to run. You know, like in the US, when you take a taxi, and as soon as you jump in and the man put the vehicle into drive, the meter start to run. Well, it's the same thing. From the time you jump in the back of that ambulance, the meter start to run. You have to pay. That is why the healthcare system is so good, because it's not the government footing the bill. Anybody could point me to any government hospitals in the US? Hospitals where any citizen could walk in for free, get healthcare and walk out? No. Have your insurance or make sure your bank account fat. Otherwise, pressure on you. Crapo, smoke your pipe. But we can't have that here. You're mad? They want to kill Rowley. All they want Trinidad to look like Dubai. But every time a PNM government is in power and they build anything that even looks like something in Dubai, first thing all they jump out, vanity project. I'm looking at some of the development taking place in Guyana. They're building a bridge. If you see it, you feel we could build that here? And the PNM could do that? Vanity project. That money could be better spent on other things, on healthcare and on education. So don't build it. No, that is a vanity project. Same thing they said about the waterfront. Never mind the fact that they articulated that under the last Minister of Finance, Mr. What was his name? Gerald Yetming, under Pandey. In that, their final budget, they had plans to build the same waterfront. As I said before, the only difference, they were planning to build a Marriott instead of a Hyatt. When it was in their budget, that was a beautiful idea. Manning come into power and Manning built it. Vanity project. Manning wants to change the skyline of Port of Spain because he wants to be an emperor. And as soon as they come into office in 2010, the same vanity project that they were beaten up on, fighting like crab in a barrel to get our office there. But you enablers in the UNC, that's the problem. That is why development could not take place under the PNM. And that is why you need a leader like Dr. Roy to say, to hell with them. Press on. They don't want it, too bad. We will build it. Because we know in years to come, the very same critics who have a problem with it going to come afterwards and say, that go there. You see? Look at now, the same waterfront, 66 new courtrooms. 66 new courtrooms. How many new courtrooms did Kamla Prasad Bisasa build? How many? But Rowley ain't do nothing for the country, and the PNM ain't do nothing for the country, and the PNM has not bettered the lives of the citizens of this country. Well, tell that to every new homeowner who, for the last 8 years or the last 5 years or so, has been saving close to $70,000 in closing fees on stamp duty that they would have had to pay under Kamla Prasad Bisasa if they purchased a house for $2 million and more. They would have had to pay that to the Border Inland Revenue. But thanks to Keith Rowley, your son and your daughter, who just get married and looking to buy their first house, they had to find that money to pay Border Inland Revenue. Rowley said, keep it. Paint the house with it. Furnish a room or two with it. Put on an extra room with it. That's what Rowley say. By increasing the threshold from 850 under Kamla to 2 million. But Rowley ain't do nothing for the citizens to improve the lives of the citizens of this country. No, he ain't do nothing. It was better under Kamla Prasad Bisasa. Yes. And Rowley said, look, we're giving already homestead program. We want to create entrepreneurs, not employees. So while Kamla talking 50,000 jobs, we will create 200 new employers every year between the age of 18 to 35. So there is longevity. We ain't looking for people 40 and 50 years plus who, some of whom on the cusp of retirement. We want to empower the young people between 18 and 35. So when they start with this one business in the early 20s, they could build more businesses because they have a longer lifespan than the people in the 50s and 60s. So let's focus on them. Let us give them the training free of charge, 1 year in agriculture. Let us give them a piece of land when they finish the training. Let us give them a piece of land, 2-acre plot, a starter home, and $20,000 to start their business. So they don't have to go knocking on doors begging for work. Look, they don't have to go looking for a job where they get earning minimum wage. They could earn their own paycheck by how they apply themselves. So let us give them the tools every year. 200 new young people. Some people might fall out by the wayside because, not everybody could handle the academic side of things. And I suppose that the ministry would try and come up with some way to treat with that aspect of it in recognition of that. But where is the UNC equivalent of that program? Tell me, please. Where is it? They shut down CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. They shut down the youth camps, right? Who were the main beneficiaries of these? They want to tell you about the urban youth. In other words, the African population who only know to pick up gun. And you see it in the comments that they put too, that the only thing PNM supporters good to do is to pick up gun and rob people and kill people. They ain't good for nothing else. But the very programs that the urban youth used to gravitate to, where they could learn life skills, different skills in terms of hairdressing, in terms of masonry, carpentry, refrigeration and air conditioning, all these different things so that they could earn a living on their own. Kamla shut it down. Because you know why? And remember what Sat said? When African children was beaten pan, the East Indian children was beaten book. So while the East Indian children may gravitate towards the more secular professions like the lawyer and the doctor and them different things, you find that the persons of African descent would gravitate more towards the tech voc areas. So we shut it down. When Mr. Manning proposed UTT, they were in opposition. Kamla say, we don't want no next university. Why are you coming with this next university now to rival UE? And all of we already have so many private tertiary institutions in the country. We don't need another university, UTT. But when you come in power in 2010, you hug it up and you embrace it like it was your idea. Like it was your idea. And all them things you shut down. And then you're wondering why it is now that the urban youth find themselves in the situation that they're in. You launched the Color Me Orange project. Tell them come to the Hilton Hotel where we will have the launch. Yes. And what did they meet when they get there? heavily armed riot police in riot gear, waiting at the entrance of Hilton in case these never-see companies from East Dry River come to get on, right? That they don't know how to behave in these settings because we know nothing good comes from East Port of Spain. Nothing good comes from East Dry River. They are not cultured. They are different breed, so you need to treat them differently. So rather than you embrace them and give them something, to make them feel good, as soon as you pull up and you walk inside, police with baton, shield, headgear, ready for just 1 hour later make a move. So they could drop some baton in your backside and then they expect the others to try and defend you and you beat everybody. Because that is their mindset. That is the only way to treat people from East Dry River, who they know they want to tell you they so love and they want and all of that. When it is that Dr. Rowley established the task force with this guy, Anthony Watkins and Hans Devines and these guys to go into Laventille and into Beetham and talk to the young people inside there and see what their issues are. The UNC had the only thing the UNC was interested in, how much that costed, how much they pay in Anthony Watkins, and how much they pay in this one and that one. They're not interested in the outcomes. No, what is the cost? How much money they pay Selwyn Ryan for that report into the at-risk African youth? They come up with a program called Hoop of Life. Spent $10 million to bring Shaquille O'Neal here, right? Aside from that, the program was budgeted to cost $12 million, which included the prize money. The majority of that money, aside from the prize money, which was the only money that really went into the communities, everybody else eat our food. Over $2 million spent to rent high-end vehicles, SUVs and sedans for the officials who conducted the program. Yeah? That is where the bulk of the money went to. It wasn't the little at-risk youth in the communities where the program was being held. It's the people who organize in and the suppliers of the food and the everything, just as in live sport. They are the ones who benefited. But the primary persons who were supposed to benefit in the live sport program, again, the same at-risk youth, the young Black African youth, the urban youth, according to the pundit, what they got? $1,800 a month, breakfast and lunch. That's all they got. 34 million, one man get that to teach them. Up to now, they never sit down in a class. So they go into the center for 2 hours and they sit down and they play cards and they smoke a weed and they will talk and then they go back home and they come the next day and the same thing. They just sign in to say, I was here, I eat my breakfast, after lunch, I eat take my box and I go on home. Because at the end of the month, I get $1,800 to do nothing. My lot has not improved. I get $1,800 to what? To buy milk and Pampers because some of them have 2 and 3 child mother. At that young age, I have money to buy my little joint or 2, buy my cigarette, and I good. Right? That's the life that they know. That is what Kamla and the UNC offered them. Columbia earned $69 a day. Right? $69 a day for 3 months. And after that 3 months, well, crapo smoke your pipe. Those say we didn't give all nothing. They bring them into the Hyatt, and then when they start to grumble and so on, probably because they felt offended that they were met at the entrance by heavily armed riot police. You come up on stage like a school teacher, hands up, out, up, out, up, out, down. Big men and women who finished school donkey years, you come in to tell them hands up, out, up, out. Treat them like little children. Yes, not like the adults that they are. That is their mindset of persons from certain parts of Port of Spain. But when Manning wanted to develop East Port of Spain, no, they want to take all their property to bring the 1%. Don't bother with Manning. Make sure they pay only $1 million for your apartment. 1 million, nothing less. Don't mind the fact that your rent is $50 a month and you haven't paid in 20 years. So you owe in the HUC, but the HUC must pay you $1 million for a property that you don't own. Yeah? What happened? They rejected it. That fell by the wayside. Dr. Rowley come back and revive it. Again, we see the need to develop East Port of Spain. And then Roberts and them come with big report and say, look, they want to give all their land to the 1%. Make sure they dig out their eye. Make sure they pay all the X amount of money. Tell them, no, all they don't want to leave. Yeah? They want the view up on the hill. Those study Rowley and them. No development. Well, Dr. Rowley and the PNM pressing through with the development. But Rowley and them men like black people. They only care about the 1%. Again, I repeat, it wasn't Rowley that gave away the lands in Chagaramas. It's not Rowley that have the water park man paying $3,800 a month rent now for 35 acres of land when it should be 500,000. Rowley didn't do that. Rowley wasn't the one who gave 4 acres of land for $1 a year for 30 years to build a car park to lease back to the CDA for 900,000 a month. It wasn't Rowley that did that. It wasn't Rowley that gave one man 100 acres, right, of what was formerly a mega farm that Mr. Manning and the PNM put in place in order to diversify the economy, to improve local food production. When Manning did that, and the People's Partnership come in and said, what? The government should not be competing with the private sector and the small farmers and so on. You shut it down. Shut down the mega farms. You didn't see that, hey, we could produce food on a massive scale here to provide not just for domestic consumption, but we could export to and make money. So you shut down the mega farms and you bring Caroni Green. And when they did the audit of Caroni Green, never make a penny in profit. Thief, left, right, and center, eat a food business. Right? Skullduggery and bubble. Devat Maharaj, as the Minister of Agriculture, based on complaints from farmers, legitimate farmers, decided to conduct an audit, and it unearthed all of the wrongdoing that was in that project. Yeah? But you get one man 100 acres, say you go in and plant onion for export, and then the next thing, to have a restaurant on the property. Arable lands now occupied by a restaurant, which making money. It wasn't Keith Rowley did that. Keith Rowley take back 50 of the 100 acres to give it to the smaller farmers. It was Keith Rowley that took the same 1% in whose back pocket you say he is in. He took them to court. Some of these matters still tied up in the court so that the right amount of rent could be paid into the treasury for the benefit of you, the citizens. But yet still in their manifesto for 2025, you know what they're telling you? Put us back and we will continue what we started in Chagaramas. We don't care that thousands of you all march from Chagaramas to the waterfront to protest what was happening down there. The giving away of prime real estate. The Chagaramas Convention Center that they gave to the Ramhit family. Yeah? All of these things systematically given away. They couldn't give two hoots about the Guave Road farmers, but they so care about the small man. They love the small man, and Rowley and the PNM don't like the small man, and they don't like the African man. But the African farmers in Guave Road, Richie and those guys who have been occupying those lands over 50 years, what they do, bring tractor to bulldoze the people crops that they spend the time, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears that they love to see to cultivate those crops, and all they bring back home. Dig up the people crops, heap it up in a corner under a big tree and tell them go and sift through and see what you could salvage to sell. We don't care about all here. We don't care about all here. Why? And I would say it. I don't like to talk the race thing, but that is what it was. Because the farmers of Guave Road were predominantly persons of African descent, so they didn't care. So when they come in now to tell you Rowley don't care about African, and Rowley don't care about African, and they ain't doing nothing for the African people, it was Rowley's government that had to come in and intervene to give back those lands to the Guave Road farmers. Never mind the fact they're going through a little trouble now with some difficult farmer down there, but at least they got back the lands. Kamala didn't care about them. Because instead, they wanted to pave paradise, in the words of the song, and put up a parking lot. Literally, pave paradise to put up a parking lot. No compensation for these farmers. Go all your way. Fend how you could. See if it is all you could go and ask Mr. Aboud for a little walk in the water park. You might get work to sweep, clean the pool. That's all they're good for. Instead, all they want to plant crops and play, all they want to be entrepreneurs and self-employed. Here what? Make way for progress. This land here, this is it. We want that. We're giving it to he for $1 a year. Go and beg him for work. Maybe when they build in the car park, or they could get work to mix cement. Yeah, that was their mindset for those people. But today, they are the biggest defenders. The 2 swimming pools that the government built in Mova and Lavantil to be able to provide extracurricular activities for the youth in the area. So while the PNM talking about the possibility that you could have a future Dylan Carter or George Bovell coming out of these communities, the UNC want to know who is the contractor and how much they pay for that, and what was the procedure by which it is you all gave the contract for that. That is their only concern. Not about the potential that could come out of these two. The PNM building swimming pool in Maloney, swimming pool in Dabadi O'Meara, all over the country, they're building it to provide so that the youth don't have to get caught up in a life of crime. But instead of you all support it, there's only a set of hungry belly, hungry mouth, eat our food. Well, not even eat our food. PNM supporters. Not so? And that's how it is, right? I want to deal with another issue. Well, there's two issues I wanted to deal with this morning, right? But let me treat with the first one. I see that Daryl Smith, former Minister of Sport, got a new position as a commercial officer. Let me get the correct thing here, so I know I had it saved. So it will be saved here. So give me 1 sec. Where did I save this thing? See Darian calling me, but on my live Darian, yeah, they call me back. Right. I'm reading an article here, but was published yesterday. It's entitled, Smith Thankful for New Role. Newly appointed commercial officer for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Daryl Smith, is thankful for the opportunity to once again serve his country. I am very blessed, thankful to the ministry for giving me the opportunity. It was a rigorous interviewing process, a couple interviews. Well, I think the ministry has put a good team together, young, bright people who have a lot of experience in trade, and I am just up to the challenge, as always, said Smith at the Trade and Investment Convention at the Center of Excellence on Friday. He, however, downplayed the prospect of the role as a return to the limelight. Smith had previously served as Minister of Sport from September 2015 to April 2018 and had been Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Central from 2015 to 2020. Right. So, gosh, why this thing doing this? Right. He said, I don't think, all right. I know it's a big aspect and part of the mandate for the government for Vision 2030 and also the recovery process from COVID-19. He continued, I'm just doing my part in the background to support these manufacturers and people from outside in North America, USA, and Canada to invest in Trinidad and Tobago. Smith confirmed he was under contract for 2 years, and he explained he was preparing for a few export shows and missions in the near future with focus on a food. No, man, saying, these incessant UNC ads. They have money, but they have money to put out these ads. Come on. Right, so he explained he was preparing for a few export shows and missions in the near future with a focus on food and beverage and a food and beverage trade mission in September. Well, boy, the supporters at the UNC up in arms over that. That, oh, Smith get fired because of sexual harassment. And he paid $150,000 of taxpayers' money to pay off the girl so she wouldn't report him and all kind of bacchanal and leave it up to Rowley to bring him back and all kind of thing. What kind of prime minister is that? That he rewarding Smith for that kind of behavior? They're eating up themselves. If you hear them, that tells you the type of leader that Rowley is. Now, first of all, we said this is under the Ministry of Trade. I am certain Dr. Rowley didn't sit in on any interview. Dr. Rowley didn't put out any advertisements for any position. Advertisements would have went out. Mr. Smith would have applied. He would have been interviewed, and I suppose based on what he presented, he was selected. But of course, they will tell you politics in it. They don't want to believe that is because he's PNM and whatever it is and whatever, and that's Rowley hand, and Rowley sleeping with Daryl Smith's wife, and that is why he get the work. Yeah, because that's the talk that Smith let Rowley sleep with the wife and all kind of shop it up. That nastiness. That's what they're good for, and so that is why he get the work. Only because of that, and Daryl Smith should never. All right. Let me remind all you something. You see, when you all want to commit your false equivalencies, okay? Anyway, let me get this here. Now, talking to the UNC supporters who are on the live now. You see, when all you want to come on social media and talk that talk, make sure your house is not made of glass, okay? Because when you pelting pebbles, the PNM have some big rocks waiting to throw back at you all. And I'm not saying tit for tat, and about that, right? But I just want to show you the hypocrisy of you UNC supporters who want to come and talk that. Let me remind you. Glenn Ramadas Singh, and I'm reading this article here, dated, what's the date of this boy? April 6, 2014. Express article entitled Glenn Ramadas Singh in Sex Probe. Remember Glenn Ramadas Singh? He was the Minister of the People and Social Development. Let me remind all you, police are investigating a report by a 47-year-old woman alleging that she was made to perform sex acts on fired government minister Dr. Glenn Ramadas Singh when she went to him for assistance to fast-track a Housing Development Corporation application. The Sunday Express has learned that the woman, Patricia Singh, accompanied by her attorney Nizam Mohammed, went to the Port of Spain CID office last Friday and reported the matter. According to the police, the two sex acts occurred at the Ministry of the People and Social Development at the corner of Independence Square and Abercrombie Street, Port of Spain office in 2011, 8 weeks ago. The report, the Sunday Express learned, contains explicit details of the sex acts corroborating an earlier interview Singh had with the Sunday Express on March 24th. Singh told police officers, in spite of her objections, she was made to perform the sex acts on Ramadas Singh. Inspector Mervyn Edwards and WPC Sandra Phillips David are conducting investigations. Sunday Express investigations have revealed that the alleged sex acts were brought to the attention of the Prime Minister, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, after midday on March 25th, just before her decision to fire Ramadas Singh, who was then publicly accused by Caribbean Airlines Limited flight attendant Ronell Ledlow of disorderly conduct on a flight from Tobago to Trinidad. The Sunday Express learned that up until March 23rd, Prasad Bisesa had been considering demoting Ramadas Singh. Not firing him, demoting him. Right? But they want to boast, anytime it had wrongdoing in Kamla government, she used to get rid of them. Demotion is not get rid of. However, cabinet sources told the Sunday Express the Prime Minister had a sudden change of mind and opted to fire Ramadas Singh after she learned Singh had been interviewed by the Sunday Express on the sexual allegations. So when they thought it was under wraps, she wanted to demote him. She wasn't prepared to fire him, right? Because to fire him would make her government look bad. There are people will say, well, and next minister get lost work again? But what kind of monkey house, what kind of circus is this that Kamla Prasad Bisesa running here? Every Monday morning is a different minister getting fired. So in spite of the fact that you have this woman reporting that Glenn Ramadas Singh allegedly forced her to perform 2 sex acts on him, Kamla wasn't prepared to fire him. No, we were going to demote him. Okay? But when she realized, hey, it's out in the public now because the Express find out and they're going to carry that story, I need to look as if I'm a serious Prime Minister and I have no choice because the government would be embarrassed. Sources told the Sunday Express several cabinet ministers who were also informed of the nature of the sexual allegations against Ramadas Singh and began lobbying for him to be fired, expressing concern about the negative impact it would have on the government. So they didn't care about Patricia Singh. They only cared about the impact that it would have on the government, right? It would embarrass the government. So fire him for that. Not for the fact that this woman is claiming that she was violated on 2 occasions because she was looking for a food card and an HTC house for herself, along with her mute uncle, her 74-year-old uncle. Are going on? Hold on. Right. Singh contacted the Sunday Express at 11:30 a.m. on March 24th, asking to tell her story. When the Sunday Express met with Singh at her central Trinidad home at 12:30 p.m. that day, she produced phone logs showing missed calls from Ramadas Singh on March 24th at 11:14 a.m., 11:16 a.m., 11:17 a.m., 11:19 a.m. He really wanted to talk to this woman, boy. How many ministers take the numbers of people who come to see them for help? How many of them could pull up their phone and say, yes, the 40 people that came to see me this morning looking for help for whether they're looking for a job, a HEC house, or whatever it is, I saved all of their numbers. And I call all of them regularly. The missed calls were from the same mobile number the Sunday Express had called to reach Ramadas Singh from the time he was appointed a minister. During the interview, Singh, a part-time domestic worker, claimed that she had sleepless nights since committing the sex acts on Ramadas Singh and expressed fear she would be harmed if she spoke out. Insisting she had nothing to hide, Singh gave the Sunday Express permission to use her real name and also produced a photograph she took at Ramadas Singh the first time she visited his office in 2011. Seeking to give credence to her story, Singh returned Ramadas Singh's telephone call in the presence of the Sunday Express. During the 5-minute, 15-second recorded conversation obtained by the Sunday Express, Singh expressed disgust over the sexual acts she said she was made to perform on Ramadas Singh at the ministry's Port of Spain office. During the telephone conversation, Ramadan Singh did not admit to the sex acts that were performed on him. The Sunday Express has also obtained a sworn statutory declaration in which Singh speaks of a disapproval over performing the sex acts on Ramadan Singh at the ministry's office. The Sunday Express learned Singh had previously told an official at the office of the Prime Minister, an attorney, a church elder, and a former government minister about the alleged sex act she performed on Ramadan Singh. However, the single mother of three told the Sunday Express she never previously made an official report about the incident, but was doing so now because of the courage shown by Ledlow, who reported the disorderly behavior of Ramadan Singh aboard BW flight BW 1519 to the security department of the airport's authority. She said, I was afraid to speak all the time because people I confided in about the incidents told me how powerful ministers are. Let me speed up to her report. The Sunday Express contacted Ramadan Singh via telephone on March 25th, 2014, 8:08 a.m., seeking a face-to-face interview in response to the allegations leveled against him by Singh. At 8:10 a.m. on March 25th, Ramadan Singh contacted the Sunday Express and asked for the questions to be sent via text message. The Sunday Express sent a text message to Ramadan Singh at 8:20 a.m. that read, Mr. Ramadan Singh, as discussed earlier, the allegations against you are very serious. Are you sure you would like the questions sent via text message? In a response to the text message at 8:24 a.m., Ramadan Singh replied, do you wish to email? Ramadan Singh then sent the following email address, for the questions to be sent. The questions were sent to Ramadan Singh via email as requested. However, he did not respond to the questions that were also forwarded via text message. On March 25th, the questions were sent at 8:57 a.m., 1:28 p.m., 3:21 p.m., 3:40 p.m., and they gave a whole host of times. On March 27th at 5 p.m., the Sunday Express visited Ramadan Singh's Point Pleasant, Cunupia home and was told by a relative that he was resting. Please come back. The Sunday Express remained camped outside Ramadan Singh's house and attempted to speak with him 1 hour later. However, no one answered the doorbell, and the Sunday Express tried to contact Ramadan Singh yesterday for comment on Singh's complaint to the police against him. Up to last night, he had not responded. And then they give you the excerpts of Miss Singh's statements where she talked about going to Mr. Ramadan Singh's office, how he shoved his hand down inside her clothes, how he took off his pants, and all of these sordid details and what he made her do, and all of it. It is detailed here, right? But in spite of all of that, after he was fired as minister and they lost the election in 2015, Kamla Prasad Bisesa put Glenn Ramadan Singh as the chairman of the Superior Regional Corporation, right? The corporation that bears the same name as the constituency, which she has represented for the last how much years? 20, 30 years or so? 30 years now? Chairman of the Superior Regional Corporation. Powerful position in that region, right? The supporters now who have an issue with Daryl Smith getting a low-level functionary work as a commercial officer. Not no big position, not in charge of anything. They have a problem with that. That's a commercial officer. You come in on social media, think, and all this government and they corrupt and they this and that, and all Daryl Smith do this and Daryl Smith do that. But Ole had nothing to say when Kamla made this man, who is alleged to have done all of these things. I didn't go into the sordid details, but it is very graphic. Very, very graphic. I became very angry because I didn't expect this, but she says she went into the office, he closed the door, he hugged me. I thought it was a friendly hug, right? He took out, he said he wanted a bride. He said just now, then begged me come again, and this time he kissed me on my cheek. His hands then began sliding down my clothes and he started to fondle right. I won't go into the sordid details, or I could go and look for it. Just Google Glenn Ramadan Singh and sex probe and you all can read the sordid details for yourself. But I make the point that the supporters who want to come now and have an issue with Daryl Smith getting a low-level functionary work, well, they had no problem with Glenn Ramadan Singh being appointed the chairman of the Superior Regional Corporation by none other than Kamla Prasad Bisesa. That wasn't a reward for wrongdoing. So I ain't ready to have that conversation. So you put him back in a position of power where he could do the same thing that he was alleged to have done. And that making sense. Daryl Smith have no power to give nobody no contract. He have no power to hire nobody. Nothing of the sort. As I said, low-level functionary work. So his work is to just go and try and see if it is that he could get people in North America and stuff to invest in Trinidad and Tobago and establish trade trading relationships between U.S. businesses and Trinidad and Tobago. That's his work. But Glenn Ramadasi, as the chairman of the corporation, another position of power, she had no problem giving him that work. After this, where we read here, where Ms. Singh said that she would have given the information to officials in the office of the Prime Minister, so Prasad Bisesa knew about it and was prepared to only demote him, but only when she realized it was about to go public, and you realized what would have happened to you, you decide, hey, yeah, let me fire him, Let me fire him. And that is what they want to tell you should put back as Prime Minister in this country. How many other examples of that did we see? Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell send a letter to her expressing concerns with respect to cutting and pasting, prison gate issues, the issuance of briefs, legal briefs by the office of the Attorney General and so on, expressing her concerns. Sent a letter to Kamala. She didn't send it to her boss, Ram Logan. What Kamala do? Read the letter and say, here, Anand, deal with that for me, please. Himself to himself. Himself to himself. Same thing. Stacey Rupnarayan, the board of NIDCO, expressed concern about possible interference by the line minister, Suraj Rambachan, in respect to the contract, the award of the contract for the QREP interchange. Stacey wrote a letter to Kamala expressing the concerns of the board. What Kamala do? Send the letter to Suraj and tell him you deal with that. Himself to himself. And they want to talk now about whistleblower legislation, and people must feel emboldened to come forward and report wrongdoing. But the two whistleblowers, Eleanor Donaldson Honeywell and Stacey Rupnarayan, what happened to them? What happened to them? But they so love whistleblower legislation, and they want to encourage people to come forward and talk about corruption in the existing government. They're not genuine. It's just like the procurement legislation that they have an issue with now. They boasted, they brought it in 2012, 2013, 14, 15. Why didn't they implement it? Why didn't they seek to have it proclaimed? You know why? Because it was just a pappy show. They bring the legislation, they say we bring it, and then do what? Senators set a joint select committee where they know it will sit down there and languish for months and years in every time the committee meet, and they have a meeting, and then they have another meeting 2 months later. So it's just there in abeyance. That is what they did to fool people. While the mantra was what? I can't remember what it was. Well, it was, the real thing was fool the people. So they could boast and say, now, yes, we brought the procurement legislation, the strong legislation in 2012. I read for you a couple of days ago the opinion of that legislation from a gentleman who would have spoken to a permanent secretary who was in the ministry responsible for that at the time. And he made the point that that legislation was cause for lockup. And he was not prepared to go to jail, to break the law, to implement nothing. And he put in to take early retirement because he wanted no part of that legislation. And they knew they had no intentions of proclaiming that legislation anytime soon, because all the thievery that took place between 2010 to 2015 and from 2012 to 2015 couldn't happen. If they had implemented that legislation, Krishna Lala would have never get that contract for that Beta wastewater treatment plant. Not under the sun. Even with the watered down legislation that we have today, he wouldn't have been able to get that contract. Ask yourself why they didn't put it in place. All the other things that they did. That $7 billion that they took from the treasury to say they're going and finish the highway instead of taking the loan, because there would be no oversight from the lending agencies, the government money, so the government reports to himself to himself. They were not interested in proper procurement. So when they come in now and play in holier than thou, tell them, get the hence. They are nonsense. They're not fooling me. I'm not buying that BS one bit. But they could come now and talk that nonsense or the thing, and this government want to thief. I have given you all the examples of the ways that this government could have thief based on what the People's Partnership left in place, and they didn't thief. But all of a sudden, they want to tell you now they're going and thief. Right? What's the time there? All right. Let me deal with issue number 2. Well, 3. This issue with Fali Augustine and what it is that he did last week in the THA, claiming that this guy, Akil Abdullah, came and told him things that the Prime Minister and the Commissioner of Police and whoever else was involved in this plot to try and bring him down and all of that. Now, I am acquainted with this individual, Akil Abdullah. In fact, I know several people who are acquainted with Mr. Abdullah. And I can tell you, Mr. Abdullah needs a checkup from the neck up, right? He's a very strange fellow. Very, very strange. In fact, while I was at the ILP, he was the regional coordinator for the ILP. So he sat on the executive of the ILP for a period of time. He really wasn't doing much in Tobago, but yeah. I understand that he was part of the UNC executive, again, for Tobago. He's been with the PDP and the executive of the PDP. So somehow he manages to get himself onto the executive, because remember, most of the political parties, other than the PNM, don't really have much of a presence in Tobago. So they would rather have somebody from Tobago represent them in Tobago than to send a trainee to Tobago. And it makes sense. And he always seems to be able to be in the right place at the right time to be selected as this person to represent the party in Tobago. So I could tell you from my own personal interactions with him, the man's strange. It's like he talking to you and you, I feel I need to call the petty wagon for this man or no. That is what you get from him. You know, he's just all out there. So I don't understand how Fali Augustine could have sat down with this man on 2 occasions to say you're recording what it is he said and actually believe what it is this man said. And then for those of us who have viewed the recording, you realize there was some prompting taking place, because he says that Dr. Rowley's attorney, Gilbert Peterson, was there. But notice his recollection of so many other things was so on point, but he couldn't remember the name of Dr. Rowley's lawyer. He couldn't remember the name, but you could remember everything else in great detail. Yeah? You remember the name of the officer, what is Webster Ali or something, so but you couldn't remember the name Gilbert Peterson. Gilbert Peterson, who name and face always all over the place, you couldn't remember him, but some obscure police officer whose name we never hear about, you could have remembered that name. And we didn't find that strange until Fali, and automatically, Fali was able to know who he was talking about. Now, when you hear somebody say, well, Dr. Rowley, lawyer, the first name that would come into the minds of persons who are aware and lucid, and I use the word lucid, would not be Gilbert Peterson, because we've often heard that Dr. Rowley lawyer is the, oh gosh, what is his name? He's the chairman of Heritage, right? So I found it strange that Fali just thought of Gilbert Peterson and went and pulled up the picture and showed the guy. He couldn't remember him, but Fali, it automatically came and he showed me. There's the fella? Yeah, that's the fella there. Right? Mm-hmm. And nobody finds that fishy. I'm amazed at the amount of people in Tobago who trying to defend Fali and that foolishness. Tobago was always held to a higher moral standard than Trinidad. We used to always say, Tobagonians ain't going to do that. Now, look at what has happened to Tobago. People who were all up in arms about Tricky Tracy and the zip line, any wrong that Fali do, they have an excuse for it. They have a plaster for every sore. Because as far as they're concerned, Fali could do no wrong. Yeah? But you all weren't willing to give Tracy, our girl, the benefit of the doubt. But Fali, anything Fali do, benefit of the doubt times 100. Yeah, it's because guys Rowley and them, and Rowley and the PNM trying to do this and trying to do that. Fali wouldn't do them thing. He admitted and then tried to come and skew the definition of propaganda to suit himself. And you have people in Tobago, all who beat up on Tracy, beat up on Ansel, right? For this waste of time zipline issue. Well, they're fed up. Well, they had enough of the PNM and we want back with money and we want to know. But here it is that you have allegations being made. Let me tell you something. Anyway, if all you think, as I would have been made, yeah, heard some stuff this week on there. If all you think the UNC corrupt and joke, if all you think that party corrupt and joke, let me tell you something. I have heard some things there. I've blown my mind that when I thought I knew the extent to which that party is corrupt, let me tell you all haven't heard it. You all ain't heard nothing yet. And I'm talking about people who are inside that party. People who are inside the belly of the beast, sharing information about what goes on inside there. You all have no idea the risk that this country faces if these people come back in 2025. You know, I needed to sit down and I don't drink. But I could tell you, after some of them things I heard, I felt like I could take a drink. It is amazing. And some of the most prominent people in the executive of that party who are involved in this nastiness. These people they take corruption to a totally different level. But don't worry, in due course, you all will hear. In due course. Hold on, all you hear nothing yet. Right? You see what happened in Tobago there with them contractors? Let's just put it this way. UNC and the the TPP. You see all them claims, all them contractors from South. Understand the link. Well, you ain't hear nothing yet. So all of them who sit down and say, me ain't going to vote, and the PNM and the UNC is the same thing, trust me, the PNM and the UNC is not the same thing. Not the same thing. In no way, form, or fashion. These people deserve a platinum award for corruption. They have refined corruption. When the things, look, let me make the point I want to make here, because if I get into that this morning, let me tell you. But I will repeat, if you all think you know the extent of how corrupt that party is, well, you ain't hear nothing yet. Take it from me. But I continue. So the UNC now is trying to make a false equivalency between what Farley did last week and Dr. Rowley and the email gate. So they claim Dr. Rowley is a hypocrite because he came to the parliament and read out emails and accused people of certain things, and now we vex because Farley come in the THA chamber and did the same thing and accused the government of things and whatnot, and accused this one and accused that one, and he's the biggest hypocrite. I see persons the likes of Pastor Clive Dutton. Yes, Clive Dutton. I was surprised when I saw that too. I don't know how many, but we posted it on the page, on the Facebook page, right? I'm going to read for you all what Pastor Dutton, and I'm assuming this is his page, legitimate. Farley Augustine is an extraordinary gladiator. If you see he and a lion fighting, feel sorry for the lion. This youth knows how to plant a dagger in the heart of hypocrisy. This is Pastor Clive Dutton. Okay. A perusal of his Facebook page, and assuming I didn't see his pictures, but I'm assuming it's the same Clive Dutton. If it's not, the likelihood is, right? Because I know Farley is a Seventh-day Adventist and Pastor Dutton is also a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm not casting aspersions on the Seventh-day Adventist community at all, but I'm just bringing the linkages, right? So he is supporting Farley in what he did. And I imagine the hypocrisy that he mentions in this post has to do with Dr. Rowley and, again, the email gate. So let me deal with that this morning. Where is this thing? I'm going to put this on here. So the leader of the NTA don't miss a beat. He too decided to make the same false equivalency. I'm going to get it here. And he put out a post as is usual, criticizing Dr. Rowley about that. Let me play it for those of you who didn't hear it. Right. So let me get this here.
Keith Rowley, you have indeed proven yourself to be the ultimate hypocrite and shows why you are unfit for office and should not lead this country. So you decided to state that Farley Augustine used an avenue in the Tobago House of Assembly to make comments that could affect the reputation of others, and you voice your disgust, even though this Farley Augustine has an individual who's an actual witness, a whistleblower, but you are concerned that he used an avenue to prevent any action being taken against him by those persons who have been accused. You are indeed a hypocrite, Rowley, because one, do you recall Emailgate? You claim you get a typewritten document that you take and send to Parliament. A 10-year-old child would have known that it was a typewritten document and not actual emails, as there were 21 errors showing that it could never have been emails. However, like the coward that you are, you decided not to take it to the police, but to go to Parliament, where it's the one place that you can lie about others, smear their names, and have no repercussions taken. The same thing that you're complaining now with Farley Augustine. And recently, you decided to handpick civilians who have no law enforcement authority, pay them hundreds of thousands in taxpayers' dollars, ask them to do an audit, get the information, get the report, and again, like the coward that you are, your plan was to have taken it to Parliament to smear the names of others who may be politically opposed to you, and knowing fully well that Parliament is the one place that persons can lie about others, smear their names, and nothing could be done on that individual. Keith Rowley, you're indeed the ultimate hypocrite, and I want Trinidad and Tobago to notice the character of Keith Rowley. Keith Rowley, you have been...
Right, that's former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith, right? Calling the Prime Minister a hypocrite. Right? And again, talking about Emailgate. You know, there's a clip circulating. I'm sure everybody has seen it. A few moments later, when in 2015, Mr. Griffith, in doing an interview with Jack Warner, spoke about Kamla Persad-Bissessar as being a lazy prime minister. The 5-day weekend, right? That clip, the 5-day weekend. that she comes to Parliament, she spends most of her time in her office, she would come to the Parliament chamber if she has to vote or make a contribution, and then she goes back home to South. 5 days. So her weekend started from Friday evening until Wednesday. Right? This is Gary Griffith saying this in 2015. But a couple nights ago, same Gary Griffith, speaking about the same Kamala Persad-Bissessar, says that he has worked with 4 prime ministers, and Kamala Persad-Bissessar was the most hardworking of all of them. Right? That she gets up 4 o'clock in the morning. Her day starts at 4, and she calls him at 4 o'clock. I wonder how Gregory Bissessar is feeling. That at 4 o'clock in the morning, Kamala Persad-Bissessar picking up the phone, and the first thing is she calling Gary. Well, I know how he feeling. He don't feel anyhow because that is not true. Because when they had the crime symposium the other day, back in March, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, being interviewed by the media, complained that she had to get up 5 o'clock to come to Port of Spain for 9 o'clock to attend this crime symposium. So she had a problem. She vexed with the government because they make her get up at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock too early for her to have to leave Siparia, or well, wherever she lives, down in Philippines, to come up to Port of Spain. Yeah? So I don't know, all of a sudden, Gary wants to have us believe that she gets up at 4 o'clock every morning. Really, Gary? That's why he has bags under his eyes, because she starts her day at 4. Maybe when it's 4 o'clock in Australia, not in Trinidad. Miss us with that BS. We ain't buying that. Not Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Because when she was in her 60s, she wasn't getting up 4 o'clock. When she was prime minister, she wasn't getting up 4 o'clock. So she sure as hell ain't getting up 4 o'clock now that she's in her 70s and could barely walk at times, right? Okay, so miss us with that from a please. But what I wanted to touch on here, and I want to address that issue because I see the supporters talking that same nonsense about, you hear what he said there, 10-year-old could have seen that wasn't that wasn't emails and it was typewritten and you had 21 errors and so on. Let me address that for you all. The final report that was delivered by the deputy DPP into the Emailgate matter, and interestingly enough, of course, the Emailgate investigation concluded under Gary Griffith while he was Commissioner of Police. That report is very instructive and it says a lot. But you see, I don't know if it is the figure all of us were born last week or we came down in last shower rain, or we can't read. The figure PNM supporters, apparently, we are supposed to be part of the waterfront ilk. We're clueless. We don't know what it is happening, but we just there. No, sir. Let me read some of that for you. Now, he made the claim here that Dr. Rowley, instead of taking the emails to the police, brought it to the parliament. Again, that is dishonest and it is untrue. The first thing, and Dr. Rowley is on record as having said this on numerous occasions, that when he got the email transcripts, the purported email transcripts in his mail, he didn't call anybody in the PNM to tell them. He didn't call Faris. He didn't call Camille. He didn't call Franklin Khan, who was at the time still alive, to say, hey, look, I get something here. Let me send it for you. He didn't do that. He didn't tell anyone within his circle in the PNM. Having studied it, read it, the contents, he took it to the President of the Republic, who was then George Maxwell Richards, and asked Professor Maxwell Richards, the President, to forward the email transcripts to the Integrity Commission, who has overall responsibility for persons in public life who subscribe to the Integrity in Public Life Act. So whenever it is senior politicians or anybody in the who falls under that act, runs afoul of the law, is suspected of running afoul of the act, the Integrity Commission has to conduct an investigation. Dr. Rowley took the email transcripts to the President and asked the President to forward it to the Integrity Commission for their consideration and investigation as needed. He didn't do what Kamala Persad-Bissessar did when she got the letter from Dansam Dansuk, claiming that Franklin Khan and Eric Williams was trying to solicit bribes from him and so on. He didn't do what she did, and just as he gets it in hand, run up in the parliament and say, look, I have it here. Read out this letter into the parliament, cause Franklin Khan and Eric Williams to lose their work, cause them to be charged, to be arrested and charged and brought before the court, embarrass the men and their families, only to have Dansam Dansuk subsequently recant his statement and indicate that it was the UNC that put him up to writing that letter, and that it was not true, but it's that he found that he wasn't getting through what he wanted contract-wise and so on, and he did that out of spite because the men weren't playing ball. They weren't doing what he wanted to do, right? But he's on record as saying that. She ran up in the parliament in a big way. Her supporters wouldn't have that conversation. So long before there was email gate, there was Dansuk gate. But they don't talk about Dansuk gate. No. Dr. Rowley didn't do what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa did in 2017 when she got the internal audit report from Petrotrin, speaking to over-fiscalization with the oil. Fake oil, as she called it. So she didn't say, well, okay, well, let me see if this has any truth in it. She didn't say, let me take the report to the police for the police to conduct an investigation. She didn't do that. No, she didn't take it to the president. What did she do? She called a public meeting to come and say, hey, look, Rowley best friend thief in oil, or Rowley best friend billing Petrotrin for oil that he didn't deliver. That is what she did. She didn't take it to the police. He didn't call her out for not taking it to the police, who subsequently had to do an investigation, right? When he became commissioner of police, he was so interested in facilitating this investigation. But you want to come now to say that Dr. Rowley didn't take the email transcripts to the police. Once the email transcripts would have gotten to the Integrity Commission, as Dr. Rowley had requested of the president, it was left to the Integrity Commission to employ whatever resources they felt necessary to get to the bottom of it, which investigation would have included the involvement of the police. So Dr. Rowley didn't want no brouhaha. They say he come with this email gate thing to bring down a government. Really? If he wanted to bring down the government, he would have done what Rudal Munilal did when he made his claim about Dr. Rowley in the same email, the same fake oil thing. Come to the parliament with the budget debate when you should be talking about the specifics of the budget. You come to say, look, you have evidence here to show that Dr. Rowley have some bank account in Miami and a wire transfer of 500,000 US for closing down Petrotrin and the fake oil business and all of that. And Dr. Rowley have some joint account with the owner of AV Drilling. All that bacchanal, and Munilal went to Miami to do his own investigation. So all of a sudden he's Inspector Clouseau. Yeah? He working for the TTPS. So he went Miami to do investigations. And you come in the parliament. You didn't take your information to the police. No. You came in the parliament and read it out. Right? Look, you had this here and you have that here and accusing the prime minister of all kind of wrongdoing. Right? And then you finish, you take it and put it back in the manila folder, carry it back to your office, stick it in a drawer and sit down on it for a whole year. And then come back the following year during the budget debate to bring up the issue again to say it's a whole year ago you made these allegations in the parliament and up to now the police can contact you. You have information that you claim could result in the lockup of the prime minister. Charges being brought against the prime minister, wrongdoing on the prime minister. You come in the parliament, read it out, put it back in the folder and put it in a drawer for a whole year. But I didn't hear Gary tell him anything about he didn't bring it to the... It's only when he made the issue the following year the police got involved. They say, well, okay, but why you didn't bring it to us? You made the allegation. If you truly believed what you said in the parliament was true, why you didn't take it to the same police that, or let's say Rowley should have taken the email transcripts to? At least we see Rowley did something. He tried to get it into the hands of the police without making a public spectacle. And then he waited 6 months. 6 months for the president to be able to send the transcripts to the Integrity Commission. 6 months for the Integrity Commission to start or conduct the investigation. Because you understand, an investigation of that nature into such serious allegations couldn't happen overnight. 6 months. Is that the actions of a person who is interested in bringing down a government? That he waited 6 months to allow the perpetrators to be able to cover their tracks? Dr. Rowley only decided to bring the email transcripts, the purported email transcripts to the parliament after he inquired of the president what was the status of the investigation. I brought these transcripts to you. Help me. Tell me what's going on. Because there's a serious thing inside there. Right? And it was only because Max Richards was on his way out. But Dr. Rowley decided to follow up with him because this is the president that I took the documents to. I cannot wait for the new president to come in to ask him something that he knows nothing about. And you already recall, Max Richards knew that he was on his way out because he fell out with the People's Partnership Administration and more specifically, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, when it is that he wrote to her to ask her for an explanation of Section 34 and the proclamation. And all of them open up on him. I was reading, I don't have enough time to read it today, with Jack Warner, Mr. Warner, when he was minister at the time, launched a scathing attack on the president how he passed on out a place to write to Kamala Persad-Bissessar to ask her to give her an account for Section 34, right? And then when George Maxwell Richards, when he was delivering the throne speech, for his final throne speech for the official opening of Parliament, in his speech, he mentioned, jokingly of course, but still, there was a level of seriousness to it, that he knows that this would be his last throne speech, because he knew the People's Partnership was not going to give him a third term. Kamala was most upset when she wrote back to him through her attorney, Israel Khan, basically to tell him, you're far son out of place. Who are you to ask me anything about Section 34? Go from here. Go from here. And it was against that backdrop that Dr. Rowley went to find out from Professor Richards what was the status of the investigation, and there being no investigation having taken place. It was then that Dr. Rowley, then leader of the opposition, brought the email transcripts to the Parliament. So this nonsense, or let's just say from Gary Griffith, that, oh, Dr. Rowley didn't take it to the police, he brought it to the Parliament. Come now, man, Gary. Really? Really? And you expect people to vote for you? Your integrity is shot. Just from those clips alone, right? She lazy, she's the most hardworking. You were lying then, or you're lying now? Which one it is? But we know which one the lie is, right? Because we know. We didn't need you to tell us that Kamala Persad-Bissessar was the laziest prime minister this country ever seen. All she used to do, turn sod, right, and cut ribbon. Apparently, she thought that is the full book, because Dr. Rowley told us about the mountain of files that required the prime minister's perusal and signature when he came in as prime minister. Some of these things, waiting 2 years for Kamala to go through and sign, that he had to come and deal with, right? But that Gary wants to tell you is the most hardworking prime minister. Never in her office, so of course, files just piling up. Matters of public urgency and public importance. She didn't see it fit to go through it. She had time for that. But you have sword to turn? Yes, I am there. You have ribbon to cut? Yes, I am there. You have plaque to unveil with my name on it so I could see for posterity. I opened this, I am there. But don't come to bring no set of files for me to go through, to peruse and put signature. Forget that. I don't have time for that. But that, he says, is the most hardworking prime minister. And when somebody could, in an attempt to hoodwink the population, come with that kind of foolishness, that tells you a lot about them. Eh? But anyway, let me get to the point here. Let me read this for you. So he says, a 10-year-old could have seen that those weren't email transcripts. The same Philip Alexander who I started with when I opened, right? Just a few months ago, on one of his lives, he was saying that the email, what was purported, the email transcripts, weren't email transcripts, but in fact, communication that was intercepted by the SSA, and that it was put in a format to look like emails in an attempt to disguise where the information came from. I don't know where he get that information, but that's what he said. He said that originated with the SSA and that they put it in that format to disguise so people wouldn't know that it was really communications that was intercepted by the SSA. But today, he too wants to sing a different story. So one of the most important things, and I want to debunk what Mr. Griffith just said there about a 10-year-old could have figured that out, right? And the conclusion to the report. Let me get it here. Page 1, page 2. Right. So, the TTPS were required to gather evidence of occurrences which were contemporaneous with the events of September 2012 in order to ascertain the authenticity of the emails and also to establish a foundation of probable cause, which is required in order to succeed in an application for a warrant to a United States court to search the servers of the internet service providers in the United States. Let me read that again. Because since Gary said that a 10-year-old could have seen that everything there was fake, that was no emails. Thus, this is page 2 of the report, and I'll have the admin post the entire thing, so you all can read it on your own time. The TTPS were required to gather evidence of occurrences which were contemporaneous with the events of September 2012 in order to ascertain the authenticity of the emails and also to establish a foundation of probable cause, which is required in order to succeed in an application for a warrant to a United States court to search the servers of the internet service providers in the US. So in order for them to get the information from Google and Microsoft, right, they had to convince a US court that there was probable cause. They had to convince this US court that a crime may have been committed. And in so doing, they had to provide evidence to the judge that, look, some of the things that we see in here in these email transcripts actually happen. I continue. It is also noteworthy that notwithstanding the apparent form and structure of the purported emails themselves, their content, when matched against evidence of the prevailing circumstances in Trinidad and Tobago in September 2012, was sufficient to reach the standard of probable cause. The relevant applications were therefore successful and warrants were obtained for the internet service providers. In accordance with the law obtaining in the United States, the Department of Justice followed the exact parameters listed on the search warrant and caused the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, to filter out or remove all data outside of the range of the search warrant. The FBI then produced to the TTPS, in accordance with the terms of the warrant, all data and communication data for the accounts of the persons named in the purported emails for the specified month, that is September 2012. So Gary Griffith is telling us a 10-year-old could have seen that that was fake, that somebody just typed up that was fiction, a 10-year-old. But here it is that a US judge was satisfied based on what he read, notwithstanding the same 21 errors that Gary spoke about. The judge saw the same 21 errors, but he was satisfied that based on the other evidence that was provided by the TTPS, which was led by Gary Griffith, that there was probable cause. And in those circumstances, this US judge, who is free from local passion, he don't know nobody in Trinidad, he don't know Kamala, he don't know Keith, he don't know Gary, nobody. Right? So he wasn't influenced by any political considerations. Because as far as he's concerned, Trinidad and Tobago is some backwater island in the Caribbean somewhere that he probably never even heard of. So there was nothing to influence his decision, one way or the other, to grant the warrant. He was going based on what was in front of him, what was presented to him, which included the same 21 errors that Gary said should have been a red flag that this thing is fake. So apparently this judge was either he was less than 10 years old or he don't know his work. If we had to go by what Mr. Griffith said there, right? Because otherwise the judge was supposed to look at that, see the 21 errors and say, nah, this is fake. Go from here. Further to that, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, took this thing seriously enough to engage in this investigation. The FBI, these are the people, when you hear FBI in the US, right? People all of a sudden, they start a cold sweat. They were a part of this investigation that Mr. Griffith is now telling us that wasn't necessary. A fool, any old fool, a blind man could have tell you that was fake. I continue. The United States Department of Justice, through additional mutual legal assistance request, was also asked to provide answers to specific questions raised during the investigation. Notably, they were asked to inquire from Google, Inc. and Microsoft the answer to the following questions. Whether Google, Inc. and Microsoft can certify that that which was produced in answer to the subpoena represents all contents data and communication data contained in the accounts. In September 2012, of the persons named in the email threads, the United States Department of Justice answered as follows. To formally answer your questions, the FBI produced all of the data and communication data for the captured accounts for the specified period, which were provided by Google, Inc. Any data within the specified period which was or may have been deleted by the account holders prior to the issuance of a preservation order would not be producible in any form and therefore are not included in any return. Let me repeat that part for you. Good. You see, apparently Gary didn't read this report. He was commissioner of police when the report came out, but he didn't get a copy of this. He didn't get this memo. So I'll repeat it again. To formally answer your question, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, produced all of the data and communication data for the captioned accounts for the specified period, which were provided by Google, Inc. Any data within the specified period, which was or may have been deleted by the account holders prior to the issuance of a preservation order, would not be producible in any form and therefore are not included in any return. The United States Department of Justice also indicated in relation to Google, Inc. as follows. According to our records, Trinidad and Tobago issued a preservation request on June 20th, 2013. It is possible, likely that the data that you seek for the period in 2012 may no longer exist due to the account holder or account holders' possible deletion of the data prior to the preservation order. This is what the United States Department of Justice is saying. That the possibility, it is likely. This is what they're saying, possible, likely. You know what likely means? You know what likely means? That there is a strong possibility that it happened. That the data you are seeking, corroboration of the transcripts that we're seeing on these documents here, it is likely that the account holders would have deleted this before you all sent us the preservation order. And as such, there is no way that Google can recover that information that you are asking. So the fact that Google hasn't produced it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. We are telling you it is likely that, that all of those emails could have been sent and were deleted. And because Trinidad and Tobago took so long to request the preservation order to tell Google, hey, whatever you all do in terms of scrubbing your equipment or whatever of emails of a certain date, hold all your hand. Don't scrub the accounts of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Anand Logan, and so on. By the time they got that preservation order, it was too late. The process had already been completed, and therefore there was no way for them to recover those emails if they were deleted by the account holders. This is what the US Justice Department is saying. This is not Keith Rowley saying that. This is not the TTPS saying this. This is the US Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation is saying that it is likely, their words, possible, likely. Keith Rowley didn't say that, but Gary Griffith wants to tell you, a 10-year-old could look at it and see that that the emails were fake because of 21 errors. But apparently those 21 errors didn't convince the US Circuit Court judge that it was fake. It didn't convince the US Justice Department that it was fake. It didn't convince the FBI that it was fake. But he take a cursory glance and he see 21 errors and say, yes, it's fake. So he know better, because remember, Gary Griffith is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. So he know better, he's wiser and smarter and more equipped than the FBI, the US Justice Department, and the US Circuit Court. I continue. What this meant was that since the requests for preservation were not made until 9 months after September 2012, any emails deleted during that 9-month period by the account holder would not be available at all. Let me repeat it. I need to do a lot of repeating today for some people of the waterfront ilk. What this meant was that since the requests for preservations were not made until 9 months after September 2012, any emails deleted during that 9-month period by the account holder would not be available at all. This is what Google is saying. This is what the FBI is saying. This is what the US Justice Department is saying. That if it is the emails did in fact exist once they were deleted in that 9-month period, there's nothing Google could do to get it back. But this report, UNC supporters and Gary Griffith and them want to tell you says that the emails were fake. Yes, that they want to tell you, right? Because when you read it report in its entirety, nothing points to the probability scale. Most of what this report says points more to the emails having been authentic than not being authentic, right? I continue. Given the importance of this investigation to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the investigative process was carried out in an appropriately careful manner. It wasn't no slapdash hurry thing. This wasn't an investigation that was conducted by the TTPS. This is conducted by the FBI and the US Justice Department, right? Instructively, the investigation was completed in 7 stages. The internet service providers were approached directly for preservation. 2, one of the persons named in the email thread surrendered his device to the TTPS cybercrime unit, and it was interrogated. Representatives of the other person's name met with the police in order to facilitate the surrender of their devices for interrogation. The meeting was absorbed before the interrogation of all the devices was completed because of a failure on the part of the relevant authorities to agree to an arrangement suggested by the TTPS. So they couldn't agree with the TTPS on when and how to surrender the devices, so it didn't happen. Evidence was gathered to support the email threads. Notwithstanding the fact that certain events were in the public knowledge, evidence had to be gathered to substantiate all of the surrounding circumstances in order to establish whether such evidence would be of sufficient basis for any charge or charges. Further, such evidence was necessary to provide the basis for an application for a warrant in the United States. So the judge based his decision to grant the warrant on evidence, not hearsay, Evidence, Gary. Evidence which the TTPS, which you controlled, of which you were in charge, couldn't get. But the judge was well, whatever evidence you all did provide, the judge was satisfied that this evidence pointed to probable cause. A prima facie case was made out, and he was satisfied. He, having a level of intellect greater than a 10-year-old, was satisfied sufficiently to issue the warrant on Google and Microsoft. But apparently you missed that memo, or you didn't read this report when it came to your desk, because in your mind, it was fake and you weren't interested. Based on the evidence gathered and pursuant to our request for mutual legal assistance, our counterparts in the US Department of Justice applied to the District Court in the United States for warrants. Since probable cause was established on the evidence, applications were successful and warrants were served on the internet service providers. Again, evidence. Evidence, Gary. In accordance with the law obtaining in the US, the FBI conducted an examination of the data received from the internet service providers in answer to the warrant. In order to filter out or remove any data outside of the exact parameters of the warrant, the information was then sent to the Central Authority of the Trinidad and Tobago TTPS. So in other words, they had to sift through. So all the love letter emails that certain people, any emails that might have gone to Christian, the young boy next door, I ain't saying who ball that Jack tell us about. The same Jack who now want to jump back in bed with them, right? That in 2015 was busting mark after mark after mark every week, telling us about Kamala Prasad Bisesa and her alternative lifestyle, for which up to this day she hasn't sued him yet. And maybe that is why, but we will talk that talk next time. I know the last time I said I wasn't going to, right. But we will talk Jack. Don't worry, we're talking Jack. A further request was made to the FBI. Right, the TTPS team performed 2 separate assessments of the data which was provided. The first assessment related to the words and phrases contained in the email threads, and the second assessment related to the form of the emails and whether there was any obvious pattern of deletions. A further request was made to the FBI using the mutual legal assistance procedure to answer questions that were not specifically answered in the first request. All of the evidence of the surrounding circumstances and also data received from the internet service providers were carefully considered by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Such consideration was conducted without any involvement of the DPP, his having wholly recused himself from advising the police in the investigation. The evidence was subjected to the full code test with the result that we were not satisfied that a realistic prospect of conviction existed in relation to any identifiable suspect with respect to the offense of misconduct in public office or any of the other offenses against the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. The full code test has 2 stages. The first stage is the evidential stage in which the prosecutor must be satisfied that there is sufficient evidence to provide a realistic prospect of conviction. The second stage is the public interest stage, in which the prosecutor must go on to consider whether a prosecution is required in the public interest. This full code test is outlined in the Code of Prosecutors published by this office on March 2012 with the assistance of the Joint Partnership Project Criminal Justice Program funded by the Government of Canada. The conclusion. The authenticity of the 31 subject emails can neither be confirmed nor denied. This is the DPP, the Deputy DPP, stating this. However, evidence supported the fact that several of the events referred to in those emails can be confirmed as having actually occurred in the way and at the time referred to in the emails. I'm going to read that again for the benefit of the UNC supporters listening who always like to talk about Emailgate and Emailgate. Right? This is not Dr. Rowley saying this. This is the DPP, the Deputy DPP Joan Honoré Paul. The authenticity of the 31 subject emails can neither be confirmed nor denied. So we cannot say that they are genuine and we cannot say that they are not. However, evidence gathered supported the fact that several of the events referred to in those emails can be confirmed as having actually occurred in the way and at the time referred to in the emails. This last assertion is supported by the fact that an independent district court judge in the United States of America was satisfied that the evidence had sufficient cogency to result in the granting of the warrant to search the servers of the internet service providers, Microsoft Corporation and Google Inc. The application required the judge to examine the email content and the actual surrounding facts and circumstances as they occurred at the time that the emails were allegedly sent. Hear this. Such a warrant would not have been granted if the applicants had not shown probable cause. That is, that those surrounding facts and circumstances were sufficient in themselves to support a belief by a man of reasonable caution that a crime had been committed. So contrary to what Gary wanted to tell you, that a 10-year-old could have just watched the emails and look at the 21 errors where they spell Anna name wrong, or instead of putting .com, they put .con, small things like that. And therefore, that was sufficient to take those transcripts and put it in the garbage. Here it is, the DPP, the deputy DPP is telling you all of these things. The FBI was convinced a crime may have been committed. The US Justice Department. And then this judge had to be sufficiently convinced because he knows that this warrant is basically to breach people's right to privacy. He was giving authorization to the FBI to go and tell Google and Microsoft, give us information on people's private emails. So it's not something he took lightly. So this judge who is more than 10 years old, this judge who's probably been sitting on the bench for years and has dealt with far more complicated cases than Gary Griffith could ever hope or dream to deal with, was sufficiently satisfied that based on evidence presented to him and circumstances surrounding the contents of the email, gave him cause to believe that, maybe there is something here. But Gary wouldn't address that. Kamala wouldn't address that. The man who happened to be the next Attorney General, Saddam Hussein, wouldn't address that. And that is why I tell you, this honest to the hilt. Liars, that is what they are. They wouldn't present this. Why they didn't beat down this? All of them got copies of this, and still come on a platform and tell you the DPP say the emails was fake, and Google say the emails was fake, and the US Justice Department say the emails was fake, and Microsoft say, and the police say. You hear anything I read here tells you that any of these people other than Gary Griffith say the emails were fake? You could really trust these people to govern this country when they will lie in the smallest things? When they could come on a platform and tell you Rowley increased the price of flour last week by 33% and the following week the price of flour slash? But that the UNC wants to tell you, put that back in office. And you could trust them. And? Right. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the evidence gathered did not reach the threshold required for any criminal charge to be recommended against any person. Put another way, we were not satisfied that there was sufficient reliable evidence of a criminal offense by an identifiable suspect, which could be reduced or adduced before a court, and upon which a jury, properly directed, could reasonably be expected to be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt. So, in other words, we didn't have sufficient evidence to be able to convince a jury. So while we could convince the jury that, look, these things may have happened, because the email transcripts say this, and this happened. The email transcript said that, and that happened. But the jury would have been left in a position where maybe it did and maybe it didn't, So on that basis, we had to get any benefit of the doubt. But nowhere here does this say that the emails were fake. It is to be noted that during this process, the assistance of our counterparts in the United States Department of Justice in providing guidance and assistance proved invaluable, and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude, especially since in this jurisdiction, it was a novel investigation in many respects. We also take note of the professionalism and resolve demonstrated by the TTPS, having regard to the fact that this investigation required them to navigate uncharted territory. Yours respectfully, June on a report. Where in that say the email fake? According to Motomount. Where does it say that? How these people who are supposed to be the best lawyers in the country, because they love to say the UNC are the best lawyers. Saddam Hussein read this. He read this report. The same thing I just read for you. Mounted a platform and tell you Google say, and Microsoft say, and the police say, and the DPP say that the email is fake. He did that. Kamala did that. Wade Mark did that. Attorney at law Sean Sobers, all of them. Khadija Amin, all of them mounted the platform and tell you that this report say the emails were fake. And so now they want to come and well, what Farley did is the same thing as what Rowley did, and Rowley is a hypocrite. Rowley didn't do what Farley did. Okay? Farley didn't take his claims to the police. He didn't call in the police and say, well, look, I have a fella here telling me this, that, the other, and the next, and I would like you all to investigate it. He's the chief secretary. So if he called and says he hit something, they would take him seriously. He didn't do that. The very same thing that they want to cuss out Dr. Rowley for not doing. But Dr. Rowley is on record as showing where he did in fact take steps. And he was not prepared, as they want to say, to bring down a government by mounting a platform like Kamala did with the fake oil issue to boss a mark. He didn't run to the parliament as soon as he get the documents like Munilal to boss a mark. He didn't do like Fali to use this thing to record a man to try and build a defense for yourself. To make a case to Tobagonians to say, well, look, you see how they persecuted me? They vexed because they lost 14-1. That is what this is about. There has no truth in this. Yeah, to fool people. Dr. Rowley didn't do that. He waited 6 months. If he wanted to bring down the government, he could have done that. He would have run and called a press conference the first thing. As soon as he got it in the morning, by the evening time, he should have called a press conference or call a public meeting, as Kamala Prasad Bisasa would do. He didn't do that. So all who talking this nonsense about, oh, he didn't take it to the police and he come and make allegation and try to bring down the government, well, you're talking nonsense. Rubbish. He did the responsible thing. He understood that something of this nature could have caused significant political upheavals as it did. But you know what is interesting? That Gary have an issue with what Dr. Rowley did. Say he didn't take it to the police. It eventually reached in the hands of the police, right? What happened in that 6 months between when it went to the president and when it was supposed to go to the Integrity Commission for them to involve the police? Now, if the Integrity Commission had done the investigation and the police said, look, this is fake, the Integrity Commission would have write back to the president and say the police conducted an investigation and they said that these email transcripts are not authentic, that it is fake. The president would have write to Dr. Rowley and said, this is the findings of the Integrity Commission, it is fake, and we would have never known about those email transcripts. So it would have been between Dr. Rowley, the president, the Integrity Commission, the police, the Integrity Commission, the president, and Dr. Rowley. Only those 4 entities would have known about these transcripts. Nobody else. Is that the actions of a man who wanted to use those emails to bring down a government? No. Unlike Rudal Munilal in 2017 with the fake oil, call a press conference to say that the UNC has evidence and information to bring down 4 governments with respect to that fake oil. 4. Not just the Trinidad and Tobago government. That is a serious allegation to make. So you were saying that in addition to the Trinidad and Tobago government, there were 3 other governments. Well, at that time, Fali wasn't there, so he didn't have a Tobago government, right? It was still the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So you were trying to implicate 3 other countries. You made such a serious allegation that you have information to bring down 4 governments. You took it to the police? Did you take it to the police? No. But you claim all you have information, and then 3 years later in 2020, you couldn't even bring down 1 government. With all this information that the UNC have to bring down 4 governments, you couldn't even bring down 1. And we're supposed to trust you. That's people to trust? That could come and lie bold-facedly like that? And they want to tell you, yeah, put that back. That better than Rowley and the PNN. That if they could lie to you for such simple things, imagine put them back in office. Just remember when the 10 million US went missing from the National Energy Corporation account in 2011, they never tell all you that. They never told the population that. How did we find out? It's because somebody dropped something again in Dr. Rowley's mailbox. And when it is he came and he asked the question on the platform, then they come out and say, well, yes, that really did happen. And we're looking into it and we get back some of the money and we're working with the officials to get back the rest of the money. So if it is that didn't end up in Dr. Rowley's mailbox, we would have never known about it. 10 million US, not TT, not 10 million rubles, not 10 million bolivars, 10 million US dollars, over 60 million TT dollars, gone just so. And they didn't tell the population nothing. And we're supposed to trust them. We're supposed to trust them. When they decided to give how much millions to Hawaii to become the Minister of Finance, did they tell us that? No. It's only because the Guardian find out and bust the mark. That's how we find out. But we're supposed to trust them. Because they are the vanguards of integrity, probity. All of a sudden now they know about transparency. But between 2010 to 2015, they didn't know that word. They didn't know the meaning of the word transparency, but today they know it. And yeah, miss me with all your BS. Folks, look, let me open the lines because I see the time going there. And it have other issues that I want to discuss, but not today. Not today. I received something for Tuesday, and forgive me for the last 2 Thursdays for not having lives. But when you do the show Tuesday and Wednesday night, it could take a toll on you. And then last 2 weeks, I had early morning meetings related to the National Trust that started at about 9 o'clock. So I was not able to do it live, but hopefully this Thursday, I have nothing planned and we will discuss the issues, right? So when it is you see the UNC supporters come to tell you anything about Daryl Smith, know what to tell them from a place. Remind them of Glenn Ramadas Singh. When they want to come and make false equivalencies between what Farley did and Dr. Rowley and email, remind them Dr. Rowley didn't sit down on the emails. He took it to the president and asked for an investigation to take place. He wasn't gung-ho to bring down any government. He wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? He wanted to do that, give them the benefit of the doubt, and they got 6 months. And it was only because no investigation was taking place that he had to do what he had to do. But they had no issue with the man, Zainul Hussain, who was working in the law office of the Prime Minister's attorney, Israel Khan, being appointed to the Integrity Commission at that time when the investigation into Emailgate was at its most sensitive stage. Zainul Hussain, that for how much months before he was appointed, was sitting in Israel Khan's chambers as a principal. His name was on the letterhead of the chambers. And we had to believe that at no point in time in that 13-month period or so, he and Israel Khan ever had any conversation or discussion about this Emailgate matter, right? We're supposed to believe that because in that 13 months, he had no idea he was going to be appointed chairman of the Integrity Commission. So there was nothing debarring him from having conversations with Israel Khan about what was a topical issue at the time. But the president then saw it fit to appoint this man to sit as the chairman of the Integrity Commission. This man who would have been privy to certain discussions and information from Israel Khan, who was the attorney for Kamala Prasad-Bissessa, a suspect in the Emailgate. They didn't find anything wrong with that, right? That wasn't conflict of interest. 7701763. Let's see if I get this thing here. Bunch of jokers. We have a packed week this week, folks, with respect to the real issues. I have 2 ministers lined up, and we're still trying to work out Thursday who the guest will be, because we have 2 possible really good guests. Just now, folks, let me just put this thing on here. Okay. Right. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Dom. Good afternoon.
Hi.
The amazing about the UNC is always lies about them, but truth for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Make it make sense, please. Gary Griffith from Kalia, he wants mental health.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a rejected child looking for somebody to love him. He's a poor excuse for leader. You attack a female here, Gary. You don't come here for that. Gary hardly have hair. Gary have more hair than hair. Now you call a leader?
Yes.
When he become an adult, after Jack Warner, he loved his vomit. He loves his vomit because nobody will but talk me, right?
Yes.
And Unica, it tells me it's not about nation, it's about self-service. I must become a master at all costs to you. Is PNM perfect? No, they're not, yeah? But PNM, they stand the ground, right? Look at Daryl Smith. He did wrong, okay? When you have someone in a sexual charge in leadership, what's about Kamala? That they could do what they want. They have 2 laws there. One for Curry, one for Taylor. And UNC people do not think between A and F their letters. It is a fact. You have to listen objectively, be unbiased, right? You know what UNC like? Jim Jones.
Yes.
There's a called Jim Jones. You know that Diana?
Yes.
Cannot feed them the poisoner. It tastes good. Your child died. One child dead. I have 10 more children, 9 more to go. She was drinking poison and go free. I don't want to race, but putting my nation first. but putting, what is best for my nation. They're not doing that. They just do not care about, flying any helicopter, entertaining people, hobnobbing. The same 1% is they buy talk so much, you're quoting them again.
Correct.
Well, see, please, I'm begging you. Go to the cemetery with a telescope and pray for a brain. Because Dunn is a pseudonym to you. Dunn have a good day, my darling.
Thank
Keep up great work.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
I am good, sir.
Dominic.
I
hear people talking, boy. I hear people talking about that Daryl Smith situation. All I will say to that, before election, Dominic, before an election, and I hear them saying how much people is having Dr. Rowley government that Mr. Manning got rid of, and Dr. Rowley brought them back. Dominic, I hear people talking, boy. I will leave it there for now.
Thank you. Well, let them talk. At the end of the day, what was Daryl Smith accused of? Daryl Smith didn't touch nobody. Daryl Smith was accused of throwing talk because he and the girl grew up together, right? He gave her the job in the ministry, and I don't know if he probably thought, well, out of gratitude, something could have happened. It didn't happen. He's accused of firing her, and she threatened to go to the industrial court for wrongful termination, and in an attempt to cover up, monies were paid, right? Okay. So he was subsequently fired. But let them talk. But let us remind them about Mr. Ramadas Singh, right, who was given the position of chairman of the Superior Regional Corporation. This is the same man who went to a bar while he was minister, went to a bar in Central, had too much to drink and forgot his phone. It was in the newspapers. Somebody found his phone, went through the phone, the text messages, and saw messages allegedly between himself and the bagman, making arrangements to collect the bag of money. When the media contacted him about it, he said, the phone is mine, but I know nothing about any text messages. Some of the text messages were 2 years old. But like some of the UNC supporters will come here and tell you it was Photoshop. So there's Photoshop text messages now. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes,
I add other things to you. You forget there was a Tobago minister who was also fired too for nibbling. Remember that case?
Yes.
Right? Don't forget the infamous 201.
Yes.
Remember that too? Right? And don't talk about too what's going on in the UNC candidates with those local candidates too. Allegation of sexual misconduct in Princestown. They're not talking about that. Are you aware that Dominic? Right? It also alleged that there's a video concerning a local government candidate, a UNC local government candidate. They're not talking about that, Dominic.
Yes.
You know about that? The UNC supporters don't know about that. All right. Dominic, you continue what you're doing, yes, sir?
Yes.
Because you see these trolls and them on your line, they want to give you stress. And I see some of them cussing on your live day.
I see that.
They're very fast out of place. They're fast with themselves. Right? Why don't you study about who's going to take over the party after Kama decide to retire? What did they decide to bring in Gary? And last week, where was the works? Where was Milal? Where was Marsha Walker? As a matter of fact, what's going on with Marsha Walker?
Marsha is being sidelined because she said apparently it's only the financiers of the party they care about. But plebs like her, they don't.
But she going first. But she went first seated in Alberta.
Yeah.
So she vexed with people, but she's still going up as a UNC local candidate.
Yeah, but as she was reminded by Kingsley, it's party before country. So in other words, hush him out. Don't complain.
I see. Well, I hope she learned she younger. Anyhow, too. If I was Mr. Well, I had talked to another person. Certain people going up on the pulpit tomorrow. But I want to tell a certain political leader of the ILP, please, sir, please don't embarrass the country, because when people watching the live, it's not Trinidadians alone watching the live. It has people from the American embassy, other international agencies looking at the politics in this country. And if they see somebody who is wanted by the United States, right, who's supposed to be extradited, and that person going up on a political pulpit, tell me what is the domino effect, Dominic?
Yes.
What can we expect? Right, I will listen from what to say. If a person is wanted by the United States and he going up on a political pulpit, tell me what is the domino effect? Because like Trinidadians and UNC supporters and NT supporters seem to forget that it has people out there watching what's going on in this country.
Yes.
I will listen off the air, right? So you know, tell me what is the domino effect, right? Because we get some nice things from Canada, we get some nice things free. People don't have to work, don't have to get visas again.
Yes.
So I don't know. So you tell me the domino effect, and I will listen off the air. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 7701763. Right. As I said, the latest accommodation. Now waiting to see. I understand. Tomorrow night is supposed to be Jack, Gary, Kamla, and I see they wrote back in. I heard they wrote back in Fuad Khan as well. Fuad Khan went up against Kamla Prasad Bisesa in the last local internal election. The same Fuad Khan whose Facebook page they got shut down, right? Because they went and complained about his Facebook page to Facebook and got it shut down for 30 days. So he couldn't do any posts. Instead, he had to be doing it through a third party. Let me see if Fuad Khan really go in and go back. Anyway, because he has been advocating for all these people to come back together.
Dominic, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dominic?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, we're hearing you, caller.
Okay. I would like to know if Darrell Smith is not a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, if he's not entitled of getting a job. That's what I would like to know.
Yes.
I don't know what's wrong with these people, some of them, especially the UNC people. Okay, you all have a blessed afternoon and reach home safe.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm seeing, right, before Marlene was arrested, it was rumored that a public official told Marlene they come in for you. It wasn't rumored. Marlene told that to Dr. Rowley and he would have revealed it. I believe it was in the parliament. That Kamla Prasad Bisesa told her that the police was coming for her. How Kamla get that information? How did Jayanti get a copy of the confidential memo into the investigation into Foster Cummins? A confidential special branch memo that was for certain eyes only. So not everybody in special branch was supposed to see that. But somehow Jayanti got a copy of it. But they want to tell you about the PNM and the police. The TTPS is a PNM mongoose gang. But who getting information from inside the TTPS? Tell us now, who getting information? But you all want to come here and talk nonsense. You see, all of the UNC supporters who cussing on the live in the comments, I know all you're allergic to education and facts. You know why? Because everything that is said here, all you cannot challenge it. I continue to challenge it. You can't challenge it. And that is what hurts in all it. So the only thing you could do is to resort to the gutter, to below the pavement, to cuss about how all your mother, so and all of that. Because your vocabulary limited. Anyway. Hello, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Dominic, now we understand why he was closing down more cases. Remember, he was supposed to interview a gentleman in England?
Yes.
And you say you don't trust no gentleman with no pink, yeah?
Correct.
Well, it makes sense now, and we had to connect the dots. That is why he was closing down cases. He wasn't interested in going after corrupt officials, you know. It was just a ploy for him to be in that position, and we see what has happened, right? I saw another video of a classic example of took place in I think it's Woodbrook Place.
Yes.
Where it has some kind of canal.
Yes.
A classic example of stand your ground.
Stand your ground.
I agree with somebody a previous caller. I think that somebody has to tell the good lady to persuade that gentleman from going on the poll because they will look bad on our party. All right? Because they might never know what they call officials, or like you say, intelligent officials, or people the gentleman is wanted by the United States, and they'll be looking very carefully. I wonder if people remember that there's an embassy here.
Yes.
And there are people watching the politics, right? So I think somebody has to tell her that I don't think it's nice for the gentleman to go on that pulpit. And I think Gary Griffith had to watch himself too, because his reputation will be tarnished. As a matter of fact, the NTA and the UNC reputation will be tarnished. They can get blacklisted. All right?
Yes.
You have a good day.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon, brother. Oh,
Good afternoon.
I don't want to change the program, but
yes.
I want to ask you a question, sir.
Yes.
But you tell me before 2010, when Pamela and them stopped property tax from being paid, the owners of buildings in town, right, buildings, were paying taxes.
Yes.
If that is so, right?
Yes.
Thank you, because a guy who is on UNC side when we talk, he telling me, none of them owners who owning buildings in town pay tax. I call her real estate agent. She told me. She said no, because the property tax didn't stop anybody's paying, but as far as you know, you got to pay property tax.
Yes.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good show.
Thank you.
All right, good.
Yes, so land and building taxes were being paid in Trinidad and Tobago up until 2009, when the Manning administration would have repealed the old land and building tax to make way for the property tax, right? So there was a moratorium that was put on property tax from 2009 until the property tax legislation could have come into full force. And when the People's Partnership came in 2010, and they claimed they were going to repeal the Property Tax Act, which replaced the Land and Building Tax Act, they did no such thing. They did not repeal the act. It remained as the law with the intention for them to bring property tax. In fact, they said they were going to bring back the old land and building taxes. That is what Winston Dukaran had promised. He had promised that, right? And then when he became Minister of Finance, he indicated that they had run into some legal hurdles and therefore they needed to look at it again and all of that. But the moratorium that was put in place by the PNM ran until 2015. And by way of Finance Act number 2 of 2015, which was proclaimed in January of 2015, the People's Partnership put in that Finance number 2 Act that the moratorium, right, the waiver on paying property tax, land and building taxes was to come to an end as of midnight of December 31st, 2015. The People's Partnership did that, which means that as of January 1st, 2016, there was no longer any waiver and you would have been liable to pay your property tax. So this government could have, when they come in, could have said, well, the People's Partnership in 2015 through Finance Act number 2 brought the amnesty, the moratorium to an end. So therefore, we could bring it now and say at retroactive January 1st, 2016, you're supposed to be paying back taxes on property. They didn't do that. They instead extended the moratorium, which is why you're not paying property tax today. But anyway, but like we forget that. You see, these are the things that they don't tell you all. They brought the moratorium to an end, effective midnight December 31st, 2015. Go and look it up, Finance Act number 2, 2015, and see. What was the intent? They thought that they were going to get a second term in office. All they wanted was a second term, people. From 2015 to 2020 to finish what they started between 2010 to 2015. And at the end of that 10-year term in 2020, all of them pocket would have been nice. So if they lost the election after that, they didn't care because they got to go. They would have thief enough money to relax if they wanted to migrate, go somewhere else, do whatever it is that they wanted to. We dodged a bullet. And as I said, I will on another day, we will talk about the extent of that bullet. If you all think these people corrupt and joke, well, you ain't seen and hear nothing yet. All right, don't say anything, Lalia. 770-1763. Yeah. We know. We don't need to do like the people at Tobago who need to take flambeau to see the night, what you could see in the day. We don't need no flambeau. The sunlight is good enough. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to King Dominic.
Hi, afternoon.
How are you?
I am good, and yourself?
I'm good, Astaja.
Nice.
Well, I have something in my hand here. I do that people remember. They say that Jack is back.
Yes.
But I only hope they remember also the lies, deception, blunders, and missteps. So I do hope that people of this country know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Have they head on?
I hope so too.
Well, and as I always say, keep the guard up, eh?
Yes.
Now it be time to be much more wise and watchful.
That's correct. That is correct.
Take care of the children and be safe on the nation black carpet. Best and love to all.
And to you.
Hold on, please.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, boss, how you going?
This is okay, yeah?
Yeah, I know that.
Oh. So we on to you, we always listening.
Nice.
But this time, she have a little money and she phone us, so she tell her, she said, all the money got all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, man. So, is what time you just spoke to again on Sunday?
Well, it's supposed to be 11 to 1, but I guess I will probably do another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, man. Excellent. I'm enjoying it, man.
Yeah,
so,
man.
you take care of yourself.
You too.
Yes, man. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Olga. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
It's so nice to hear Oman Ora, man.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yes. Dominic, there's nothing much to say. I think you would have said it all, and it's up to the people to decide if they want to continue on a reform, if they're abstaining from it, or if they're voting against it. You see that Jack and Jill behavior coming tomorrow night?
Yes.
That is dead horse. It's of no relevance because the same two that is holding Kamala both sides to prop she up, but the same two that bad Mochi in that video clip and who are reading in the house. And Gary coming to tell me, as soon as you assume professional police, all the gate closed. The Cambridge Analytica, it closed. Right? But you come now and say that about you want Dr. Roddy to do a lie detector test to prove that he was lying. So we all know that you had an agenda all along when you were commissioner of police, right? So that email gate bacchanal to close it. Because we don't know your agenda already, Gary Griffith. We know you was at UNC from jump. You just pretend that you was trying to be neutral. And I like how Philip jamming him. You see, up to the cancer, Philip. Yeah, son? Yeah. But anyway, Dominic, good program. Long time listening. And I was going to put all the YouTubers like Sideran and Paul Kumana Sharon and David Clark and all of them on the YouTube. YouTube are them hot. Yeah, long time listening.
Yeah, man. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hi.
I would like to advise to Jack Warner. If you don't go to church, start to go to church. Get his little Bible and start to say Psalm and read his poem. And sit down and wait until the US government is ready for him. And keep quiet. Rest the old self. You have a blessed day.
You too. But as far as I can recall, Jack goes to church, goes to Mount St. Benedict, as I recall. But you know, they really say politics makes strange bedfellows. And yesterday was yesterday and today is today. I recall, after the 2015 general election, Gary Griffith was interviewed, right? Same Gary Griffith. And he made the point. He said, when he went to the polls, he could not in good conscience, knowing what he knew, vote for the UNC. And that he held his nose when he went into the voting booth and put his X next to the Balize. He said that having been part of the People's Partnership government as National Security Advisor and then as Minister of National Security, that he could not in good conscience vote for the UNC candidate, held his nose and put his ex next to the PNM candidate. And based on where he lives in Mocha and Fairview Drive there, I think his member of parliament would be Coleman Burt. So he voted for Coleman Burt. You couldn't vote for the party of which you were a part, the government of which you were a part. You couldn't vote for them. Why? Because you knew what they offer. That you went and voted for the PNM candidate, and vote who you don't like. But your conscience would not allow you to vote for the UNC. Again, of which party you were a part, that you went in 2015 and put your ex next to Coleman Burt. But today, the same Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the same Rudal Munilal, the same Jolene John, and the same whoever else, all of a sudden, you could vote for them. All of a sudden, you could work with them. All of a sudden, Kamala is the best prime minister I ever had. Yeah? And that People's Partnership was the best thing Trinidad and Tobago ever had. But you couldn't bring yourself to vote for them in 2015. People, take note of all of these things. Take note of these things. Hello, good afternoon. Hello?
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
You know I don't like to call twice.
Yes, sir.
But I hear your colleagues say how since Aisha gone, we gone and call on other programs.
Mm-hmm.
But they all up in Juliet programs. That making any sense, Dominic? I will leave it here.
Thank you, sir. Let me say congratulations to the chairman of the PNM and the member of parliament for Tunapuna on a successful walk yesterday. I'm seeing pictures of that walk. I was supposed to be on that, but I couldn't make, because had I gone on that walk, I would have been no good for myself today. I'm seeing pictures here. It would appear to be a rather successful walk, and I know there will be many more of those to come because the chairman is really invested in going out on the campaign trail with as many of the candidates as he possibly can in the time that is left in the campaign. So you may very well see the PNM warriors rolling into your constituency one of these days, right? But based on the pictures I'm seeing here, it was a walk well attended. I know Eric was there and others, and Jenny and all these guys. I'm seeing Michael Seals and other folks. So we will announce it here when the next walk is, and if you all could join us, we'd be happy to have you. The more, the merrier. Yes, Donna. Donna says she's ready and ready. PNM. Yeah, let me see here. Angela says, Jack, do you really think the US would still have you extradited? Are your sons outside? Why are you doing this now, Jack? And that's the thing, Jack. After the 2020 election, Mr. Warner said, that's it, I'm done. Let me end this politics thing again. And then he jumped back in the fray for the UNC internal election. Of course, it didn't help the candidate he was supporting for ICANN. And I don't think that him coming back now is going to help them either. Right? In fact, anyway, we're going to discuss Jack. Jack needs a whole show by himself because there's a whole set of clips we have to play to remind you of the things that he said about Kamla Prasad Bisesa, to remind you of the things that she said about him. All of a sudden, they buried the hatchet and feelings have changed. There's one love again. After Mr. Warner would have admittedly sacrificed the ILP just to get rid of the People's Partnership in 2015. The almost 2 years that we did the Sunshine Hour on the Street 919 FM, myself, Janelle, Nigel, Dane, Danan, Joseph Mendez, Rika Ramjit, all of us, and at one time Sunil Ramjit Singh, all of us, all that work that we put out for almost 2 years with Jack providing us with information after information, right? Confidential information. All of the things that was written in the Sunshine Hour, the Sunshine newspaper was formed to get rid of the People's Partnership. All of that. What has changed between then to now? How has Kamla Prasad Bisesa changed? All of the main players who were involved in her government that we got rid of in 2015, based on information that Jack provided, how have they changed? Munilal is still there, as I understand it. You have people like Surud Rambachan and them even though they're no longer in active politics, they're waiting in the wings. They're waiting in the wings. All of these people waiting to become ambassadors and chairmen of state enterprises and all of these things, put in strategic places so that they could thief. All of them. So don't be fooled because they say they bow out of politics or no. They're just waiting in the wings so that until that opportunity presents itself. So when I see a set of people talking nonsense about PNM nothing, well, wait and see. Vote for them and see how much UNC plenty all you will get. You all will get 2010 to 2015 on steroids. Trust me. You see that Ratiram fella? Watch here. Anyway. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, Dominic. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, I forget to give the listeners and the viewers a little scenario took place on Friday where I live. Right? Now, the UNC candidate would have been supposed to my area on Friday afternoon, about after 3. So while I was home, my parents would have told me, hey, the UNC coming. So I fly down the stairs and I want to put myself in front of you to listen to what they have to tell me. You know me, I was the engager.
Yes.
Right? So they come in, take me to talking, the candidate. I take her name. Right? So we think now, Julian John walking with her. So I stand up there now and I ask the candidate, why should I vote for you to represent me in this party? That's why I ask the candidate. And if you want my vote or my support, you have to convince me why should I vote for you, right? Right. She tell me, to give you good roads and good bridges and the vulnerable youth in the area and the fix it and the I say, okay, no problem. Right. So I ask her now, what is about this 25% inheritance tax that your leader is pushing down the throats of the electorate? Now she can't answer it. Julian John jump in. The fray. Right? I want to say how the government want to impose this property tax, and if your parents leave a land for you, and they only take 25% of the property, and then they pay this, and they close up petrol train, and I say wait. I say just stop. I say, are you the candidate? I said the candidate have to promote herself to me. You remember, she's a candidate. You are a senator.
Yes.
You understand? And Julian, she going on and on. I tell you what, thanks for your time. I will consider and I will think about voting for all you because I never voted in my life. Well, you know that is a lie, but you know what I mean? Right? I will sit and I will listen because clearly all it in promoted me, why or convinced me, why should I vote for your party? So in a nutshell, the loose points there fought with me. But nobody on where I live ain't coming out and gave this person support. They only know Sheldon Moore.
Yes.
That is the only person people know in the area right now. They see him, they know him. So this person now comes on the scene here now. It's kind of off. But anyway, long story short, I'm waiting for the next one to come. That is NTA. I'm waiting patiently. And I will tell them, I say, I want a gun. No gun, no vote. Just after them. That's my mantra. Lots of listening.
Thank you. And as I recognize that point, folks, let me tell you, when NTA come in front of you and Gary come by your gate, ask him, Gary, why didn't you vote for the UNC in 2015? Why did you hold your nose and put the X next to Imbut instead of the UNC candidate, Gary? Why? Tell me that now. Why didn't the UNC vote for you in the parliament to become the commissioner of police? Why did they abstain? Why did they want Mr. Dulal Chan instead of you, Gary? Have you ever asked them that? Why did they hold back and not give you their vote? But today you want to convince us that all is well? A convenient platform to ride on because you couldn't raise 141 candidates, so you decide, well, let me piggyback. And poor Marsha Walker. I don't feel sorry for you, Marsha. Potong in chief, because you had to run out and yap and snap at every little thing that happened. And look at how they're treating you now. Gary getting more play than you. They ain't no time for you. Fend for yourself. When it is that Gary decide maybe to work with you once or twice, that's about it. But otherwise, that you're getting no support, you're complaining, oh, they have no time with you, and it's the small man in the party, they only care about the finances and so on. Why? But you wouldn't say that in public. But you're quick to do a live to cuss out Rowley and cuss out the PNM. And in your own party, they're doing you that. Your own party. So if they have no time with you, what can you offer the people of Diego Martin Marsha if you win the seat? What are you going to do? All we're going to see is lives on TikTok, lives on Facebook complaining about the corporation and getting no money, and you can't do nothing for the people, Marsha. Understand that demographic down there different to no, Marsha. They're different. Right? They vote based on issues, not propaganda and lies and misinformation, of which the UNC are masters. They don't vote on that. Because they could go on and they will Google and see if what you're saying, while you talking, they fact checking. And only saying, this girl is a damn blasted liar. And they'll tell you, yes, you have support here. Support way. Support nothing. But continue. You already see Kamala work with Marsha yet? You see her work with any of the candidates yet? She can't. Because she wants to let us see she have a human crutch on the left and one on the right. Poor soul. But she wouldn't give up. And you have people like Gary and Jack and them encouraging her in this nonsense. People understand something here, right? This is a very important election. A very important election on which Kamala Persad-Bissessar is hoping to get a lifeline. Right now, her political career is in ICU. Okay? Worst case scenario, we got to take 7-7. Even if it remains as it is now, we have no problem with that. Okay? But the UNC must make no inroads. NTA must make no inroads. You need to send a message to Mr. Griffith, who seems to think, yeah, right, everything, people... Port of Spain going blue, and here going blue, and there going blue. Really? Blue soap? To wash out the maljo? That's all. Next time you see them come and make sure you have your blue soap. Ask them the question. Ask him, why didn't you vote for the UNC in 2015? Now that this clip going on, where it is he said about Kamala and the 5-day weekend, and then now he's saying she was the hardest working prime minister. Has he denied it? No. He can't deny it. So we're talking about the PNM and desperation on the part of the PNM, and that's why they bring back these old clips and so on. But you said it, sir. At least you didn't lie and say that it was Photoshop and that wasn't your voice. Unlike what Anil Roberts did with the Room 201 video. At least you have somebody come of honesty left. But oh gosh, man. Oh gosh. Is either she wasn't or she was. 8 years ago, she was the worst president, and today the hardest working prime minister you ever worked with. And you said that with a straight face, by Gary? And you want us to believe you that you have integrity and you go do something like that? And the simplest of things are you lying for, right? Just remember, everything that comes out of your mouth, once it's recorded, it's somewhere. And it will be found. You can't hide. It will be found. So we will find the clip where it is that you said you had to hold your nose to vote for the PNM candidate because you couldn't in good conscience vote for the UNC candidate. Having come out of that party, having spent at least, more than 5 years, because you were there under Pandey too, and you couldn't bring yourself to vote for that party. But you want to convince us, you couldn't do it. You ain't vote in 2020 because you say you're commissioner of police, and therefore to cast a ballot, it would make you look biased. Because there's only one vote you have. So you thought it better not to cast a ballot. But I'm sure if you had decided to vote in 2020, more than likely you would have voted for the PNM candidates again. Given the fact that it was because of the PNM that you were commissioner of police, not the UNC. Right? But we know who you're voting for this time. Because they're back in bed. So it's you, Jack, Kamala, but we're here in Fuad, and we'll see who else could jump on the bandwagon. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Philip making headway in all their territory. So when all they're trading all their guns on the PNM, and all they're watching Philip, UNC supporters ain't going to vote for PNM now, but they're going to vote for Philip, those who are disgruntled. All right, so continue. Train your guns on the PNM. Just imagine all your Trinidad, Tobago, Fali, all they gang up against this PNM that's so wicked and corrupt. Not one or they can stand up on our own and say, well, right here, we could defeat the PNM. The juggernaut that is the PNM. I'll tell you something. The PNM don't afraid to lose elections. 86, 95, 2010, At the end of the day, all it is get one term, and after that one term, the people is run right back to the PNM. Always, how it always happens. You know why? Because they see the difference in governance. That is why when they talk PNM corruption, you have to go back 50 years. We could go back 1 year, David Lee. We could go back 2 years, Anil Maraj, Glenn Ram, right? We could go back to 2010 to 2015, Ram Logan, Ram Dean, who is the others? All of them, all the allegations, we could go back to Ramadan Singh. We could go back to Mary King. Who is the others that get fired? Colin Patta, all of them, right? And then we could go back to 95 to 2001 and talk about Incogen, the Salcott, Severn Trent, the Rice Deal. We don't even talk about them things. We don't need to go back that far. We don't need to go back that far, but all you had to go back 50 years to talk about PNM corruption and then say the PNM so corrupt. When all these men, O'Halloran and Privat and all of them, long dead. Long dead. They pose no threat to the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, as opposed to those players from 2010 to 2015 who still are wrong and hoping to get a second play. But this time they learn the ropes, so they know how to thief much faster now and come up with creative and inventive ways to thief. But we're going to talk that. We're talking that very soon. But you see that Tobago issue with them contractors is more in the motor than the pestle with that. But anyway, folks, it is 1:56. I think this is the longest live I've had. And I have a lot more to talk, but we will discuss that on Tuesday. Remember, Tuesday night, 8 to 10. Well, I wouldn't say which minister yet, but we're supposed to have 2 ministers this week, possibly 3. Thursday night, Wednesday night, we have some jostling to do because we have more guests than we have days this week. So don't miss it. This week's intent is going to be very informative and hot. I can guarantee you that. All right. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Share the live, share the live, share the live, and God's willing, we will chat again on Tuesday morning. So I'm out. Thank you so much for joining me today.